What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2L Chapter 21 You failed to wear down the opponent's defense. 5/5 Please vote for flower evaluation. Oh, it's really scary. Are you late? Standing on the broken dome, Perusolino lengthened his tone in surprise, and exclaimed with his usual tone and expression. Looking at the headless body of St. Charlos, Perusolino raised his eyebrows and frowned, but then relaxed quickly. He had already rushed over as fast as he could, but he didn't expect that St. Charlos, a celestial dragon's, would actually get into trouble and be killed. In fact, Perusolino came straight towards the Oganjana kingdom at the beginning. However, when we finally approached this sea area, we still flew in the wrong direction and took an extra 10 minutes. After all, he only passed by here once a few years ago. The consequence of flying in the wrong direction was that the best time to rescue St. Charlos was missed before he was killed. Of course, Perusolino would not know that St. Charles just entered the hall. I just said a few words, and they haven't lasted more than a few minutes. Roy gave the order directly and was pinched to death by Modisazi. Admiral Kizaru. Ha 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 ha, damn bastards, you are dead this time. Outside the main hall, after spitting out the blood in his mouth, Felix saw Kizaru Perusolino rushing to Admiral. His expression immediately changed and he laughed. These damn guys killed Celestial Dragon's St. Charlos, and he will have to suffer a heavy punishment after he returns. Originally, he was alone and didn't dare to take action. But now, Admiral Kizaru from Naval Headquarters is here, so why is he so scared? Compared to Admiral-level superpowers? Don't be ridiculous. That's just him exaggerating to highlight the seriousness of the matter. Damn it, the most he can do is just a 4 Emperor's deputy. Even if it was truly the top combat power at the Admiral level, he believed that it would be in the hands of Admiral Kizaru. He will definitely be teased. After all, Marine's first speed is not what he boasts about. As for the other men and women, Felix would not be so stupid as to think that they are also Admiral-level top combat powerhouses. It is impossible for a mere kingdom to have so many terrifying top-level combat powers. As long as he holds back those guys, a pale-skinned dwarf and 2 beautiful women. How strong can it be? The aura is scary, but I'm afraid it's not just a bluffing aura. I said, you scumbag has been annoying lousy from the beginning. You are so weak, but you still know how to scream. Go to hell, you bastard. Felix's incompetent and furious yell seemed to stimulate Yami's nerves. I saw a violent light flashing in Yami's eyes, and he clenched his fist, making a crunching sound. The next moment, Yami's huge figure turned into an afterimage and disappeared. Waving a fist as big as a sandbag, the figure suddenly appeared in front of Felix and punched him hard in the face. However, this time Felix was already on guard after hearing Yami's words. Iron body armed iron body. In just a moment, Felix's body stiffened suddenly, and then the black armament hockey wrapped around his arms. Boom. Crack. Peefed. A powerful and heavy punch struck down. The iron fist packed with majestic destructive power pressed down on his arms and hit him hard on the chest. There was only a sound of bones breaking, and Felix was blown away again. Felix, who was vomiting blood and had a look of ferocious pain on his face, smashed a crater into the ground. Ahem. Felix took a few deep breaths and quickly stood up again. The situation this time is much better than last time. He was able to defend against the opponent's attack, but not completely. Damn guy, you pissed me off. Roar. After standing up, Felix was thoroughly annoyed. Within a few hours, he was suddenly knocked away 3 times. Moreover, Marine Admiral Kizaru has also arrived, and he no longer has to hold back and dare not take action, worrying that no one will support him. Under Yami's surprised gaze, Felix looked up to the sky and let out a roar. Yellow hair quickly grows on the face, followed by the whole body, changing from a standing posture on 2 feet to a posture on all 4s. 2 or 3 seconds later, a monster with a body length of more than 6 meters and a shoulder height of 4 meters appeared in front of everyone. The huge beast was covered in brown, yellow and white with black and brown tattoos. It opened its bloody mouth, and its 2 long and thick fangs flashed with cold light. Zone Devil Fruit, the ancient species Barbo saber-toothed tiger form. This is a fruit ability similar to that of Beast's Pirates, one of the flying 6 cells, Fozzie Fu. Come on, Lousy will bite 2 holes in your neck and suck out your blood. At this moment, Felix is bursting with all his strength, and his confidence is bursting. Feeling that his strength was not weaker than Yammy's, he roared again, and started running with a roar. The limbs full of muscle power ran like meteors, and when he was about to approach Yammy, he instantly switched to the Beastman form. Suddenly, the speed surged again. Waving his claws with bared fangs, Armament Hockey instantly clung to him and fiercely fought towards Yammy's chest. Tear. However, facing Felix's sudden all-out burst, Yammy couldn't dodge at all. Felix thought Yammy was frightened by the speed of his explosion and hadn't reacted yet. He could kill the opponent immediately, and Felix already showed a victorious smile. But immediately, the corner of his mouth that he had just raised collapsed. When the shiny black Armament Hockey's claws fell and crossed over Yammy's empty chest. Just scratched out, several cross-shaped white claw marks. What? This is impossible. Felix was completely stunned. His claws, which could tear apart steel, struck with all his strength, but he failed to break through the opponent's body. Such a terrifying blow left only a few scratches on the opponent's body. Monster. Chapter 22. Come, if you are brave enough, I'll give you the death penalty. 1/5. Please vote for flower evaluation. Felix was stunned. It is completely unimaginable that someone could withstand his full blow without being injured simply by relying on physical strength. No, he didn't even move the other person one iota. By now, the white marks he had just caused had disappeared. What kind of monster is this horse rider? How many points does 4 Emperor's Kaido cost? You must know that his strength is such that even the elite Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters cannot survive dozens of moves at his full strength, and he will lose. He can even defeat the Marine Admiral more than a dozen times. With such a strong strength, he actually dealt -0 damage despite going all out? Felix was so stupid. What? Is this all your strength? With such a weak strength, Lousy is not even interested in eating you. Looking at Felix, who was shocked beyond measure, Yammy's eyes flashed with a cruel and fierce light. The rugged and extremely muscular body spurted out terrifying Ryotsu, crushing towards Felix and the others. Seeing this scene, the corners of Roy's mouth raised slightly. He knew that this was because Yammy, who was extremely disgusted with being weak, was angry. Felix, who couldn't even break through Yammy's defense, faced Yammy again and again. Feeling that she was disgusted by the weak and humble bug, Yammy naturally became furious. Although he was so weak, he thought he was a strong person and provoked him again and again. As a result, he couldn't even catch his Yammy punch? Court death. Boom. Feeling the ultimate's killing intent, Felix's spine went cold. Without hesitation, he used the fastest, shaving, and dodged away. The next moment, a tall figure suddenly appeared where he was standing. It was Yammy who swung his fist and hit Felix with a blow. But he was noticed and avoided by Felix's zone ability, sharp senses and observation hockey. Otherwise, judging from the shock wave blasting out of the hall, Felix must have been seriously injured. Stay away from here, Yammy. Seeing that Yammy seemed to be interested in killing Zone's agent bodyguard, Ulquiorra frowned and spoke in a bad tone, whispering sound. Hearing Ulquiorra's scolding, Yammy was initially unhappy, but she immediately suppressed her displeasure. After all, Yammy is not a fool. This is the palace of His Majesty the King. He was thinking about His Majesty, not because he was afraid of Ulquiorra's warning. If you dare to distract yourself and talk to others while fighting with me, you will die. 6 styles. Sabertooth Impact Ancient Hunting King Spear. Seeing Yammy actually communicating with Ulquiorra, Felix's eyes flashed with violence. But more than that, I am happy. Damn guy, if you dare to be distracted, I will explode with all my strength and kill you with one blow. Don't give you any chance. In his beast form, Felix moved as fast as lightning and arrived in front of Yammy in the blink of an eye. With the help of the terrifying impact of the accelerated bite, he instantly transforms into a human animal form. Immediately afterwards, the muscles all over his body trembled, and white shock waves spurted out from the black-armed fists and claws. Boom! The next moment, 6 Styles Tiger 6 King Gun, the shock wave of all power gathered violently towards Yami. The powerful shock wave set off waves of violent winds. The ministers in the hall were weak and their faces were full of horror and shock at this moment. It's so noisy, scum, however, faced with such a powerful Six Styles attack. Yami's eyes widened suddenly, and an even more terrifying and oppressive pressure that penetrated into his soul erupted. False bullet. I saw Yami's raised right arm, and along with his punch, a scarlet energy bomb exploded instantly. Feeling the sense of death crisis emanating from the red energy ball in front of him, Felix's pupils shrank. But the arrow was on the string and had to be fired. He could only grit his teeth and continue to hit Yami. The next moment, the two energies collided, boom. Puff. Without the slightest surprise, Felix was directly swallowed up by the scarlet bullet, and he screamed and was blasted out of the hall by the bullet. Bang! It landed heavily on the square outside the main hall, plowing out a broken ravine dozens of meters long and 10 centimeters deep without losing its power. Only then did Felix finally stop, and then he coughed out several mouthfuls of blood. Damn it! Lousy hasn't lost yet. After lying in the ravine for more than 10 seconds, Felix's pale and scorched face actually regained some vitality, and then he stood up. The semi-awakened form of the ancient species Zone Saber-Tooth Tiger gave Felix super attack power, vitality and recovery power. Felix, who was seriously injured, quickly recovered half of his injuries relying on Zone's semi-awakening state. Oh, apparently, you scumbag is not a good-for-nothing sandbag after all. Just in time, Lousy hasn't had enough fun yet. Seeing that Felix had recovered most of his injuries in such a short period of time, Yami's eyes instantly lit up. The corners of his mouth rose crazily, and the red light in his eyes flashed, revealing an extremely vicious and cruel smile. He hadn't seen such a durable punching bag in a long time. Now, how long can we play for? Soon, Felix's tragic wails and screams could be heard in the square. In the main hall, I saw that Felix, a CP0 master, was almost beaten to death. Now he is being tortured with cruel blood by the other party again. The corners of Perusolino's eyes twitched slightly. Why does he feel that something is wrong? Really, young people today are really scary. They dare to attack the celestial dragons even if they disagree. Perusolino scratched his head in distress and said to Roy, "Brother, could you please take the murderer and me to the Holy Land? After all, if a celestial dragons is killed by you, it will inevitably arouse the anger of the top leaders of the Holy Land world government and trigger heated discussions in the world. It's useless to resist. When the time comes, your kingdom will directly face the destruction of the world government and naval headquarters Buster Call." On the hole in the dome, Perusolino narrowed his eyes slightly and began to persuade. What he said overtly and covertly seemed to be thinking about Roy's kingdom, but there was no shortage of threats in it. Ordinary people would be so frightened that they would pee and beg for mercy if a Marine Admiral with top combat power said this. However, Perusolino faced Roy, who owned the Espada Legion. He is doomed to fail. Buster Call? Naval Headquarters top combat power? World government that has ruled the world for 800 years? That's ridiculous. Come on if you're brave enough. I am waiting for you here, leading an army of top-notch combat power to attack my kingdom. Don't talk about you being mere lackeys of the world government. Even if the knights of the god of the world government and the 5 elders dare to come, I, the king, can also be magnanimous and grant them death. Chapter 23. Rude person. Leave your ashes behind and apologize. 2/5 please vote for flowers. Boom. As Roy spoke arrogantly, a terrifying power suddenly erupted, and a violent and boundless terrifying aura swept across the entire King's Hall. The terrifying top-level conquerors hockey-formed waves of impact, accompanied by golden lightning leaping and flashing, spreading outward from the King's Hall. In most of the palace, many soldiers and maids who were not strong enough were knocked unconscious by this force. Just when this force was about to sweep through the entire palace and then rush outside. But suddenly everything disappeared. Roy, stop it. And what he said seemed to outsiders to be extremely arrogant. As soon as he spoke, all the ministers and generals in the hall were shocked. But they were all said to make their blood boil. The entire hall became silent, except for the heavy and hot breathing sounds of the ministers and generals. Because Roy deliberately controlled Conqueror's hockey, many ministers and generals did not feel the discomfort of being oppressed. They all felt honored and shocked by Roy's words and his powerful courage to dominate the world. After ordering the killing of the celestial dragons for His Majesty the King, he was faced with the Marine Admiral, the world's top combat force, who came to attack. I feel gratified and admired for being able to maintain a calm and fearless demeanor, proud hockey. But more importantly, they are even more worried about the safety of His Majesty the King. However, when I think of His Majesty the King's absolute confidence that looked down upon the world before, they suppressed their worries and chose to trust His Majesty the King. Everything he did was based on his confidence. Standing in the center of the hall, facing the pure top-level Conqueror's hockey impact released by Roy, Perusolino's expression also changed faintly. He became solemn and horrified. This young king turned out to be a born king with Conqueror's hockey. That's it too. The other party is the orthodox king of a kingdom. If he has the ambition to not succumb to others and strive for hegemony, he will dominate the world. It's not that I can't understand it if I own Conqueror's hockey. Damn it. Why would a young king of an ordinary kingdom possess Conqueror's hockey? This is a question worth pondering. In the perception of the world's top experts, isn't Conqueror's hockey something that can only be inherited? It seems that the young king in front of him and the kingdom at his feet have some big unknown secrets. It is revealed everywhere that it is not simple, it's really scary. You are so young, but you have such a terrifying kingly spirit and Conqueror's hockey. It scared me all. It's just that if you kill the celestial dragons St. Charlos and don't come with me, I will be very troubled, it will be very troublesome. Perusolino, who had already made a decision in his heart, had already adjusted all his strength when he spoke. Before the last two words were spoken, Perusolino's whole body turned into a flash of light and disappeared in front of everyone. In an instant, he was in front of Roy, with a cross ring shining on his toes. Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Perusolino's classic opening words of war resounded throughout the king's hall. The golden light emitted a dazzling golden light, reflecting most of the space into a dark color. Roy looked at Roy with an expressionless face, as if he was mocking him. Perusolino frowned, suddenly feeling something bad. However, this is just his testing blow. He wanted to test Roy's strength, and even more wanted to test whether there were other super strong people out of this kingdom. Sure enough, the next moment, at the same time as Perusolino's sudden face appeared, Ulquiorra, Harribel, and Urza all moved. However, Ulquiorra was the fastest and the first to react. He has already seen through Perusolino's intentions. Get out. Looking at Perusolino's plain and obscene face, Roy just said two words jokingly and indifferently. In an instant, Ulquiorra appeared in front of Perusolino, her slender body blocking Roy. The pale and slender arm stretched out and punched the laser released by Kizaru. Snapped. The amazingly powerful laser was actually scattered by Ulquiorra. The terrifying Ryotsu actually completely annihilated the light particles scattered by Perusolino. It was not allowed to scatter and shoot out, causing unnecessary damage. Then, the fist trend continued unabated and continued to hit Perusolino's long legs. Call. The wind is howling. Perusolino turned into golden light and instantly distanced himself, reappearing in the sky above Roy's throne. This time, he reached out his hand and wanted to grab Roy directly. But Ulquiorra won't give him this chance, ignorant person. Seeing Perusolino again and again, he had the audacity to offend Roy. Ulquiorra was surprisingly angry at this moment. Buzz. The next moment, Manos Grande's high-speed movement skills activated. Ulquiorra's cold arm waved across. The golden figure paused for less than a moment, and then the bloody sword shot out. Poof. It's really scary, the thin, white-faced guy. On the broken dome of the main hall, countless light particles quickly gathered into a figure. Perusolino looked at the people below, showing an extremely solemn and fearful expression for the first time. He raised his arm and glanced at the bleeding wound on his arm seemingly casually. But inside, I was already horrified. In the speed competition, he actually fell behind. Moreover, he was even instantly injured by the young man in front of him with 2 green tears under his eyes. A rude and foolish man who dares to offend the majesty of His Majesty the King. Keep your ashes here and apologize to His Majesty the King. Chapter 24 Suppression. Horrified Kizaru. 3/5 Please vote for flower evaluation. Pure speed competition. He, Perusalino, actually lost. Although this was only his normal speed, he still lost to the opponent. This gave Perusalino an extremely unrealistic feeling. After all, the other party looks like he is only 20 years old, but he possesses such terrifying strength. Not only did it exceed his normal speed, it was even able to injure him in that instant. How did he do it? I didn't even see him using armament hockey to entangle. Perusalino narrowed his eyes, feeling very confused. Ignoring Perusalino's muttering to himself, Ulquiorra sentenced Perusalino to death. The ability to turn around was activated again, and the space buzzed. In the blink of an eye, Ulquiorra appeared in front of Perusalino. He still raised his slender pale arm and struck Perusalino with a punch wrapped in high-strength ryotsu. Under the influence of observation hockey, the latter's body flashed and disappeared, avoiding Ulquiorra's punch. Then the golden figure flashed out, lifted up his long legs and kicked Ulquiorra hard. Have you ever been kicked at the speed of light? Whoops! The golden laser shot out suddenly with Perusalino's kick. It's just a pointless attack. Facing the laser beams and kicks coming straight towards her face, Ulquiorra showed no fear or hesitation. He also kicked back and smashed Perusalino's laser head on. Under the astonished eyes of the opponent, the two legs collided. Boom! The terrifying forces competed with each other, and a terrifying shockwave erupted. The powerful aftermath formed layers of waves that rippled in all directions. More powerful than me. Under the collision of two powerful forces, Perusalino was surprised to find that he was forced back by the kid in front of him, and was almost kicked out. Boom! Boom! Next, the two began a fierce battle of pure physical skills. The two fought farther and farther from the sky directly above the king's hall. Perusalino became more and more frightened the more he fought. In the physical fight, he was actually the one who was suppressed and beaten the whole time. Even if he used the Tien Commune sword to fight with swordsmanship, he still couldn't defeat him. He was also beaten black and blue by Ulquiorra and received several sword wounds. And following a mistake by Perusalino, Ulquiorra suddenly swooped forward, and Auran's body disappeared with a flash, appearing in front of him the next moment and passing by him. Just when Perusalino was puzzled as to why Ulquiorra passed by him, he found that his face was held by a pale and slender hand that was not too big but just covered his face. Immediately afterwards, an extremely terrifying pulling force dragged him flying wildly. 1 second. 3 seconds. 5 seconds. Perusalino was horrified. Under the control of the opponent, he was unable to activate the devil fruit and dispersed into thousands of light particles to escape. Instead, he was grabbed tightly by the opponent's face, and dragged by the majestic and terrifying force, he was forcibly carried across a distance of 6 kilometers. Its speed was so fast that it even produced a sonic boom in the sky. He flew directly out of the palace and came to the mountains and vast wilderness behind. Boom! When Ulquiorra saw a mountain peak, her speed increased again, and she pressed Perusalino's face against it. In an instant, Perusalino's face was forced against the surface of the mountain wall, and he was plowed up with his face for hundreds of meters. Finally, he was thrown away heavily by Ulquiorra. Boom! In an instant, the entire top of the mountain exploded, and the sky was filled with gravel and powder flying and falling. When Roy saw this scene, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth slightly. Good guy, this guy Ulquiorra, didn't you expect that he would start plowing people's faces now? This guy will be addicted to playing by then and gain experience from playing, right? Ulquiorra, the face-plowing master. Sero. Without any thought of stopping, Ulquiorra knew that Perusalino had not received much damage. Raise your slender arms, hold your palms flat and raise your fingertips slightly. The ultimate black and blue ryotsu is concentrated and compressed from the outside to the inside, jumping and condensing like thunderbolt lightning. Boom! The next moment, the Sero shot out from the fingertips instantly became as huge as a cannon ray, directly covering the entire peak and annihilating it. However, a golden flash of light escaped before that. Perusalino appeared again with a slightly wiped cheek. He patted the somewhat torn suit on his body and looked a little embarrassed. It's really scary. You are so strong that you are like a monster. It feels like I'm fighting against that guy from Kaido of the Beasts. But fortunately, with your current strength, I can still handle it. Although he was suppressed and beaten violently, Perusalino was still very tough talking. After all, he hasn't used his true strength yet, and he still has the fruit ability to awaken. And now, he has roughly figured out all of Ulquiorra's strength. Almost, it's time to settle the battle. However, after hearing Perusalino's words, Ulquiorra's pupils moved slightly and her eyebrows raised. Immediately afterwards, the whole person's momentum suddenly changed, becoming more cold and cold, depressing and terrifying. Really? What a shame. This is just an ordinary normal force after our Espada Legion has suppressed all its strength. It can be seen that your soul power is very powerful, and it seems that you also hide your strength. In this case, in order not to keep His Majesty the King waiting, I will capture you. Let you see what we will look like after releasing all our power. Chapter 25 Block It, Black-Winged Demon, 4/5 Please vote for flower evaluation. What's the meaning? They are already so strong, but in the end, is this just the normal strength after the other party has suppressed most of their strength? Then how strong will the full strength posture after releasing all the power be? Hearing this, Perusalino frowned even more, and couldn't help but feel a bad premonition in his heart. Wait a minute, little brother, can I ask a question? The Espada Legion, is it the legion you control? Are everyone in it a monster like you who has suppressed most of the power? Perusalino, who had gradually realized that something was wrong, narrowed his eyes and immediately asked. It can't be done. Perusalino had already realized at this moment that the thin, pale-skinned young man in front of him was definitely one of the world's top combatants at the admiral level. If you want to completely take down the opponent, it is almost impossible. Moreover, in the main hall just now, there are 3 men and women who look equally extraordinary. In particular, the appearance and clothing of the 2 people were very similar to the Ulquiorra in front of them. Thinking back to the Espada Legion that the young man in front of him just mentioned, Perusalino suddenly felt a chill in his heart. A trace of incredible shock and horror flashed through his pupils. If it was really as he thought, then the strength of this kingdom would be terrifying. Are these your last words? Facing Perusalino's inquiry, Ulquiorra responded with indifference. Just when Perusalino thought the other party would not answer him, Ulquiorra spoke. Okay, if you want to know, it doesn't hurt to tell you. My name is Ulquiorra Cipher, the Legion directly under His Majesty the King, the 4th Espada of the Espada Legion, and the commander of the Legion of the Praetorian Guards. Holding the Zanpakuto Black-Winged Demon in her hand, Ulquiorra responded. So, what do you mean by the power of suppression? Perusalino secretly took note of everything Ulquiorra said. He no longer intends to continue fighting with them. If the victory comes to the end, he may have to face more strong men. It is even more difficult to take away the king. However, Ulquiorra's answer to him also shocked Perusalino. He was startled by what Ulquiorra said about the Espada Legion. Does the Espada Legion mean that this legion is composed of the 10 strongest people? That being said, Ulquiorra, whose normal strength is almost on par with him, is only ranked 4th. It's hard to imagine how terrifying the guy in 3rd place, 2nd place, or even 1st place must be. Could it be that they are all 4 Emperor's class? No, how is this possible? But, at least I'm afraid the gap shouldn't be too big. Obviously, Perusalino misunderstood something. That is, in Espada, the ranking is not based on strength, but Aizen is ranked based on the size of Ryotsu. However, although they are not ranked according to strength. However, those who rank at the top must be the strongest among them. Set of information. A wave of intelligence must be collected and then reported to naval headquarters and world government. This Oganjana kingdom might not be able to handle it just by relying on its own strength. What's more, Perusalino is not the kind of person who will be completely devoted and do his best for the sake of the celestial dragons. In the future summit war, the kind of top-level battle that will shock the world, he will not work seriously. It's just an attitude of being unable to lift your spirits and doing whatever you like. Can the yellow monkey, who has assisted the Straw Hats many times, work hard for the celestial dragons? It's already a great honor for him to be able to do this. What to do with the rest is left to the world government and naval headquarters to worry about. Be grateful. Yellow Monkey has performed exceptionally well today. If Saint Charlos has a spirit in heaven, no, there should be no such thing. Because not only was his head crushed by Mortizazi, but his soul was also devoured. Ulquiorra's face was indifferent. She was about to say that this was the second question and she didn't intend to answer it. He wanted to take action directly and kill Perusolino, but his face suddenly became startled. His indifferent eyes flashed for a moment, and then he continued, "Our Espada Legion, ranked among the top 10, has the right to command and control all Legion members under number 10. The core of the seal that suppresses power is to seal and suppress our strongest and most original, true full-strength posture. When we return to the sword and release all our power, it will be your death." At the end of the sentence, Ulquiorra had slowly raised the Zanpakuto black-winged demon in his hand. Although His Majesty the King has not yet built a skycap in the present kingdom, he has not yet set any rules. However, it is still a little far away from the royal city. If Gui Renji were to kill you in just a moment, His Majesty the King would certainly not blame you. After saying that, Ulquiorra raised the Zanpakuto in her hand. His eyes became extremely indifferent, and his tone was calm but full of indifference as he said, "Finally, leave your last words, repentance, despair, and then perish. Seal it down, the black-winged demon." Boom! When Ulquiorra's last syllable fell, a dark green Ryotsu suddenly erupted from his body and soared into the sky. In just an instant, the sky in this area was dimmed into dark green, and the terror rising to the sky. Once Ryotsu broke out, it was extremely terrifying and depressing, and it made people feel a suffocating sense of oppression. All of them erupted immediately after Ulquiorra returned to the sword, and the rain of Ryotsu, which was so powerful that it condensed into a liquid state, descended. As this. All the power after liberation? As expected, you are as strong as a monster. No, you are a monster. Feeling the danger signals sent throughout his body, as well as the increasingly deep and terrifying suppression that makes his soul tremble, Perusolino's alertness increased to the extreme, and the expression on his face was so heavy that he could clearly see the specific changes. This is a high-end game. Chapter 26. Tens of millions a month. Why are you fighting for it? 5/5 please vote for flower evaluation. Perusolino put away his casual expression and turned into an extremely solemn expression. Just kidding, this terrifying power and aura and the oppressive feeling that makes your soul tremble. Even when he faced the crazed Kaido of the beasts, he had never felt such a shocking and frightening feeling. Seeing Ulquiorra's new terrifying posture, Perusolino's eyebrows were lowered and his expression was serious. Don't waver, keep your posture. Keep your spirits up and don't relax for a moment. Without warning, just when Perusolino's eyes were locked on Ulquiorra's figure. Ulquiorra is gone. After disappearing from the high ground overlooking Perusolino, Perusolino's pupils suddenly shrank. He only saw a blue thunder lightsaber suddenly condensed in Ulquiorra's hand, and the next moment, he was already in front of him, and the sword of moonlight slashed down. The blue and white moonlight sword slashed down, and the terrifying power poured out and exploded. The high-pressure Ryotsu released and exploded, and a blue-white Ryotsu light wave quickly formed and swept out in all directions. The violent explosion and shaking sound of Wang Ming was directly transmitted to the royal city, and citizens several kilometers away could feel the ground shaking under their feet. And they all saw the violent explosion light wave. For a moment, the people in the entire royal city were in panic, and they had no idea what was going on. Fortunately, a large number of royal troops soon appeared in the royal city, calming down the chaotic streets. Distance. The intense light wave of the Ryotsu explosion gradually dissipated, and the high ground beneath Perusolino's feet had disappeared. What replaced it was a huge pit with a radius of more than 100 meters and a depth of more than 20 meters. Oh, it's really dangerous. I was almost wiped out. What a monster, little brother. It's really scary. High in the sky, countless light particles gathered into Perusolino, looking at the huge crater under his feet. Perusolino felt ashamed and frightened in his heart at this time. What kind of monsters are today's young people? Just one blow caused such terrifying power. And looking at the opponent's extremely relaxed state, Perusolino was really unsure. If he doesn't do it right, he may have to explain it here today. After all, the opponent's speed was not inferior to his own at all, and he was even able to hold his head firmly. Unless he really fights to the death, the outcome is hard to say. Not to mention, there may be other powerful Espadas mentioned in this kingdom. The battle is over. Let's put aside the incident of St. Charos for now. How about you and I stop? After all, we don't have any direct hatred. You think so, brother? Suddenly, Perusalino spread his hands and asked Ulquiorra for peace. Just kidding, a month's salary is only 15 million belly, so why bother? Although there are rewards for arresting pirates and completing tasks assigned by the superiors, and you can accumulate military merits and exchange them for special precious items, such as devil fruit, famous swords and weapons, etc. However, if you really want to fight in this situation, then forget it. What's more, the body of St. Charles, the person involved in this incident, was completely cold. It's also the opponent's fault that he kicked the titanium alloy steel plate this time. There is absolutely no need for him to provoke such a super powerful person as his enemy. The most important thing he needs to do now is to leave here safely and report the information he obtained from Ulquiorra to Naval Headquarters. This is the most correct move. Armistice? Until His Majesty's new order comes, I have only one mission. Destroy all those who threaten the kingdom and offend His Majesty. Boom. As she finished speaking, Ulquiorra tightened her grip on the moonlight sword, and Ryotsu suddenly exploded. Without reasoning with Perusalino at all, he disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the next moment he was in front of Ulquiorra. Immediately afterwards, the moonlight sword in his hand struck boldly. So fast. Is this guy who really doesn't have martial ethics so aggressive? It's really scary. 8-foot beautiful Magatama and folding mirror. Perusalino, who had become completely serious, had a serious face, and turned into a beam of light when Ulquiorra approached. Immediately afterwards, hundreds of light bombs bombarded from the sky. Boom! Countless light bombs detonated at high altitudes, and occasionally a few scattered ones fell into the wilderness mountains, exploding large craters. Facing the laser bullets fired at her, Ulquiorra just flicked them away. The strong wind roared past and detonated all the countless laser bombs in front of him, without causing any harm to him at all. Hundreds of laser bombs were detonated, forming a chain reaction of light wave explosions at high altitudes. From a distance, it looks like a carefully planned fireworks display. It's such a terrifying monster, it didn't hit all of them. Swatted it away with just one strike. Tien Kong Yun sword. High in the sky, Perusalino frowned. The palms of his fists came together, and the dazzling golden light flashed, and he quickly pulled out a golden lightsaber from his palms. Holding his hands tightly, he quickly turned around and slashed down. Sonorous. Behind him, Ulquiorra looked expressionless and indifferent, and slashed out with the moonlight sword. Perusalino hurriedly defended himself. However, facing Ulquiorra, who has been liberated and whose strength has greatly increased. Perusalino was beaten so hard that he could only defend and parry. With every blow, he was under tremendous pressure. With another slash of the moonlight sword, Perusalino was directly thrown away. His throat felt sweet, and a mouthful of blood slipped from the corner of his mouth. Phew! Not only that, but the Tien Kong sword was also chopped into pieces. The powerful Ryotsu crushed down, forming a terrifying sword light that cut open his chest, leaving a long wound. Oops! Being struck hundreds of meters away by a sword, Perusalino suddenly felt that something was wrong. He wanted to make a defensive counterattack, but the next moment. But the sword wound from the lower left abdomen to the right shoulder sent a sharp pain from the depths of his soul, causing his movements to freeze. Damn it! What ability is this? Perusalino's face was gloomy, and he knew exactly what he could bear. Normally, this kind of injury would not cause such abnormal pain on his body. But now, he felt extremely severe pain. The whole person's soul seemed to be trembling and screaming. Buzz! In the midst of Perusalino's horror, a dull voice sounded from his ears. But what he heard in Perusalino's ears at this moment was as deafening as the roar of thunder, which shocked him so much that his heart suddenly stopped. At the same time, an extremely terrifying pressure also enveloped him. Of light, boom! The next moment, before he had finished releasing his skills, his body was still turning into light particles. Ulquiorra has already clenched the moonlight sword in her hand and slashed down in horror. The ultimate azure green and white Ryotsu bursts out, the cross shines in the sky, and the world is silent at this moment. The next moment, the bright green and white Ryotsu light waves suddenly appeared. Chapter 27 Kizaru. Here comes the road, mirror space. 1/5 please give me monthly flower evaluation votes. After the terrifying explosion light wave disappears. Ulquiorra suddenly frowned. After detecting the nerve radiation for dozens of miles, Perusolino's soul flame mark was not detected. Escaped. Realizing that Perusolino was risking serious injuries, he had already taken the opportunity to escape. Ulquiorra can only release the return state. This is his first time fighting against the world's top warrior. Moreover, he was fighting against such a strong player of Logia's speed. Perusolino really wanted to run for his life, but unless he took action with all his strength, he might not be able to keep the opponent behind. That's all. At least His Majesty the King's order has been fulfilled. Looking at the direction where Perusolino disappeared, Ulquiorra murmured to himself. That's right. From the beginning of the battle between the two sides, Ulquiorra turned out to really want to kill Perusolino, but later received Roy's order, so he had no intention of killing him. Follow Roy's orders very loyally. However, Ulquiorra will not let go easily if he offends His Majesty Roy. He was also quite ruthless when he started, giving Perusolino an unforgettable and profound lesson. Soon, Ulquiorra returned to the palace and came to the king's hall to meet with Roy and report the situation. Hey, just think of this as a warning. Connecting two countries to promote war, murdering members of the royal family, breaking into the palace to steal national treasures. After those two kingdoms are cleared, I can play with you slowly, 5 elders. Roy waved his hand, a fierce glint flashed in his eyes. It hasn't been long since I came to this world. Roy is enjoying himself quite a bit, so he doesn't rush into certain things. What's more, he currently does not have the power to truly sweep across the world and completely crush the world government without giving him the slightest chance. Who knows what superpowers I am possesses after living for 800 years. Therefore, it still needs to grow and develop. Approval from Shen Yang. Ulquiorra bowed his head slightly and bowed respectfully, then retreated to both sides of the hall. Ding! The mission of Repelling Admiral, Majesty of the Great Power, is completed. You get the mission reward. 2,000 origin points, and a randomly selected ability. Ding! Congratulations on randomly drawing the magic, mirror space. On the throne, I heard the voice of the system in my mind. Roy's eyes suddenly lit up. Mirror space? Could it be the space magic of Kamal Taj in the Women's Federation? If it were really that magic skill, it would be of great use. If the world government and marine fight against the kingdom of Ogu, as long as he waves his hand and opens the mirror space, it will be a devastating fight and nothing will happen. This skill surprised Roy quite a bit. After all, this mission was suddenly released after Perusolino appeared. It can be said that this is an unexpected surprise. Without thinking any more, Roy directly clicked on the detailed introduction of the mirror space. Open black lens bracket mirror space close black lens bracket quality. Platinum genre. Magic, space. Effect. Enter the area covered by space. Unless the space collapses, all damage will not affect the real world. Evaluation. This skill is really capable of murder and arson, a must-have skill for large-scale wars and national wars. It's really the mirror space magic in the Marvel universe. However, the magic he obtained seems to be somewhat different from that in Marvel. His mirror space is entered by directly covering a large area. In Marvel, you open a welded door to enter. You open a welded door for people to enter, and I directly open it to cover a large area, and everyone has to let me in. The gap between the two is not huge. Minister, ask the Ministry of Industry to renovate this hall and build a bigger palace. Just in time to destroy those two immortal kingdoms, this little money is more than enough to build a palace. Bringing his mind back to reality, Roy looked at the assistant minister under the throne and said, "Yes, follow your will. Your Majesty the King, below, we witness the tragic death of celestial dragons, the bloody torture of world government CP0 bodyguards, and the scene from the arrival of Admiral Kizaru to being beaten away. All the ministers were shocked, and even more so, they were in disbelief and awe that Roy had so many powerful subordinates. Faced with the words of Roy, the new king who had just ascended the throne, he responded without any hesitation and obeyed without hesitation. Just kidding, with such a powerful king, even the Marine Admiral is no match for his subordinates. Our Oguyana kingdom will definitely become a powerful country in the world. As the hero who defeated Admiral Perusolino, Ulquiorra's expression was indifferent and did not change at all. As if he wasn't the one who beat away a Marine Admiral. It's like swatting away an annoying fly. As for CP0 Felix, Yami, who had long been tired of playing with him, beat him to a near-death state and sucked his soul away in one bite. At this point, the Celestial Dragons incident in the Kingdom of Oguyana has temporarily come to an end. But in the outside world, a news earthquake broke out. Naval Headquarters. Justice Building, inside the Marshal's office. At this time, many Marine executives are discussing the issue of the hijacked Celestial Dragons and the huge threat faced by Charles Saint. It's been a few hours. Perusolino should have solved the threat to the Celestial Dragons, right? In the office, it seemed that 6 or 7 hours had passed, but there was still no news from Perusolino. Sengoku, with his rich past experience, keenly sensed something was wrong. According to the distance of Perusolino in the nearby sea, it would only take an hour or two at most to reach the destination. With Perusolino's strength, there is no big pirate in the Grand Line that can make him troublesome. Logically speaking, the mission should have been completed and reported to Naval Headquarters. But how long has it been now? A full 6 or 7 hours have passed, and I still haven't received a report from Perusolino. When I think of the suspected Admiral Strongman that CP0 Felix said in his request for help. Sengoku's brows suddenly frowned. Problem occurs. Sengoku is sure that the guy who can suppress Felix instantly is definitely an Admiral-level top combat powerhouse. I'm afraid something happened to Perusolino after all. Something is definitely wrong with that kingdom. Chapter 28 Marine executives were shocked. 2/5 please vote for flower evaluation. Ensign, contact Kizaru Admiral immediately to report the situation. As soon as he thought of this, Sengoku immediately turned to the liaison officer in the corner of the office with a serious expression on his face and spoke in a deep voice. Yes, Your Excellency, Marshal. Ensign, who was responsible for communicating the message, nodded in response, and then began to contact Perusolino. Sengoku, are you worried? Vice Admiral, who was holding a crane with both hands, narrowed his eyes and looked at Sengoku with the same suspicion as Sengoku. At this time, other senior executives in the office also realized that something was wrong. Yes. With Kizaru's speed and top combat power, the matter should have been resolved long ago. It is impossible that no information has been conveyed back to Naval Headquarters until now. Time passed by minute. Ensign, who contacted Perusolino, was already sweating profusely. Report. Report to the Marshal. Kizaru Admiral did not respond to contact, Gulu. 10 minutes later, Ensign stood up and reported truthfully to Sengoku. His expression was also a little stunned. Sure enough, something happened. Sengoku's expression was extremely gloomy, wondering what kind of power the Celestial Dragon's kingdom in distress had to allow a Marine Admiral to lose contact for so long. And at the moment Sengoku couldn't help but stand up and was about to give orders. A dazzling golden light shot from a high altitude in the distance and arrived in the Marshal's office instantly. Many Marine executives were startled, but they were not confused. They all know that there is basically only one person in the world who has this way of traveling. That's Marine Admiral Perusolino. Kizaru. Perusolino, how is the situation? Celestial Dragons Charles Saint. Just as he was talking, Sengoku suddenly looked startled. There was something incredible on his expression, and the rest of the Marine executives also had expressions of shock and astonishment on their faces. A drop of sweat slipped from Sengoku's forehead, and he looked at Perusolino's golden right leg with some shock. Perusolino, your legs? Sengoku, who has fought in countless battles, is keenly aware of the smell of blood in the air. Look at the injuries on Perusolino's body and the right leg that has always maintained its ability to shine. Sengoku couldn't help but have an incredible guess in his heart. Well, that guy is a complete monster. Seeing the shocked expressions of Sengoku and Crane Vice Admiral, Akainu, Huashaoshan and other senior officials. Perusalino shook his head and laughed at himself. Young people today are really scary. If the other party didn't seem to be deliberately letting things slip, maybe I wouldn't have come back so easily. At the end of the sentence, Perusalino's face was full of solemnity. But what he said once again raised the atmosphere in the marshal's office. Many Marine executives looked shocked and horrified. Perusalino was already like this, but in the end, this was still an opportunity for the other party to deliberately let Perusalino escape? How strong does the enemy have to be? 4 Emperors level combat power. Nowadays, the New World 4 Emperors are so powerful that even Marine can hardly intervene to occupy a territory in the sea. Now, a 4 Emperors level kingdom force has appeared in the Grand Line? And just when Sengoku and others were horrified and thinking a lot. At this time, Perusalino also cancelled the fruit's ability, and his bloody broken leg instantly appeared in front of everyone. Guards, get the medical team here. Seeing this, Sengoku took a deep breath and shouted in a deep voice. Sengoku was really frightened by the bloody and tragic situation of Perusalino's right leg that was broken off from below the knee. How long has it been before Marine Admiral has been hit so hard? This is the second time since the Black Arm Zephyr lost its arm that the Marine Admiral suffered a tragic loss of limbs, right? How powerful and terrifying the opponent must be to defeat the most difficult and shameless Perusalino among the 3 top combat powers. Did he become what he is today? Soon, in less than 3 minutes, the medical team arrived. Since Kizaru's injuries were too severe, the medical team wanted to take him to the medical room for treatment. But Kizaru waved him down. Helpless, the doctors on the medical team could only treat Kizaru's injuries on the spot. The sword wound from the left abdomen to the right shoulder, the right leg that was swallowed up by the moonlight sword. The injuries to the upper body were relatively easy to deal with, and the internal organs and bones had not been damaged. And the broken leg was blown away directly, and the fracture was scorched. During the more than an hour-long treatment, Perusalino wasted no time. He began to give a report to the Marine executives, starting from the moment he arrived at Oganjana Kingdom. After more than an hour, the treatment was over. Perusalino's detailed report has already ended, and Sengoku and Tsuru, Vice Admiral, Akainu and other senior officials present. But his eyes were incredibly dark, and his face was extremely gloomy. Grand Line, a new 4 Emperors level force has appeared. The Celestial Dragons died in the Oganjana Kingdom. This is a very serious situation. It must be time for the world government to take action. This matter still needs to wait for specific orders from the 5 elders before taking action. Sengoku said in a low voice. Although he said this, he had another thought in his heart. It's just that I can't say that kind of thought. All I can say is, Celestial Dragons died well. That kingdom may also be destroyed. After all, nothing so bad has happened since the Valley of the Gods incident 38 years ago. The Celestial Dragons were publicly executed and their heads dismembered. Usually, at best, the Celestial Dragons are beaten and disabled. But this time, it was the Celestial Dragons who died directly. Under such circumstances, the world government will definitely mobilize its troops and order the naval headquarters to launch a buster call, killing the Celestial Dragons and destroying the kingdom of St. Charlos. On the other hand, world government is indeed what Sengoku said. Under the reports of major newspapers, world government and the whole world have exploded. Chapter 29. World government is justice. 3/5 please vote for flower evaluation. Bang. Holy Land Marijoy, Pangea. Spacious and bright supreme conference room. 5 elders top man Wokiri Saint with a pair of white curly beards under his nose. A punch hit the table hard. You bastard, how dare you kill celestial dragons? We simply don't care about the majesty of world government. There is no need for such an inferior kingdom to exist anymore. As he spoke, the sullen expression on his face was evident. Obviously, Roy's order to kill celestial dragons St. Charlos made the old man extremely angry. Although those wastes are indeed garbage waste, but being executed by lower-class people is a provocation to the world government. According to Perusalino's report after returning to naval headquarters, the enemy possesses 4 Emperors level force. It seems that the CP-7 we dispatched at the beginning made a huge misjudgment of the information about the Oganjana Kingdom. Using ordinary buster call will have no effect. Wearing a black judge's hat and having white hair and a white beard, Saint Jekarusha Satan is not as violent as Saint Wokiri. The tone was very bland. It's just that one celestial dragon's died, this little thing is insignificant. On the contrary, if the world government uses thunderous means to destroy them, it can also scare those guys who are ready to take action. HMPH, I've already told you, just destroy that kingdom. The financial warrior god, with a bald head and glasses, holding the 5 elders of first-generation Kitetsu. Ethan Baron v. Kejiro Street. He snorted coldly and glanced at the 5 elders. Those monsters we call hollows. Are monsters we have never seen before. Could it be biotechnology left over from the past? The god of farming and martial arts, a man with short blonde hair and a square face. Shepherd 10 Peter Saint said with some suspicion. At the end of the conversation, I started to feel a little ecstatic and surprised. What you said is not unreasonable. If they really obtained the ancient inherited technology, then they must not be retained. This technology to transform powerful biological monsters must be in the hands of our world government. Such terrible technology must not be allowed to wander outside the world. This will cause irreparable disaster to the security of the world. Yes, this kind of technology must only be retained by our world government. When the 5 elders were talking, their expressions changed slightly when the events in the ancient kingdom were mentioned. But soon, when it came to the existence of those terrible monsters in Ogunjana. But they mistakenly thought it was some kind of technological inheritance from the ancient kingdom. Their eyes became fiery and greedy. However, when I think about the serif that Vegapunk is researching and making, most of the greed in his eyes disappeared. Although it is somewhat similar to Vegapunk's cloning technology, if this technology can be in the hands of our world government, that's not a bad thing. If we can create monsters in large quantities for our use, we will definitely be able to speed up the completion of Lord Im's plan. The environmental warrior god with long white hair and a trident beard, Max Moshe Saint, spoke analytically. They also had a brief glimpse of Manos Grande Jillian, who was dozens of meters tall. Judging from the information collected and photographed by the agents, the opponent can fire a powerful red laser, is very resistant to attack, and can tear open space to hide and hide in. This biological manufacturing technology is not at all inferior to Vegapunk's cloning manufacturing technology. If they were produced in large quantities and used to fight wars around the world, dealing with those kingdoms and forces that do not have the top combat power of the admiral level will be an absolute dimensionality reduction blow. Obviously, the Aogu kingdom has mastered this technology skillfully, mass-produced it, and even directly invested it in actual wars. Sure enough, there was nothing wrong with their waiting and testing. This ancient kingdom indeed has some ancient technologies in its hands. Then take this opportunity to completely engulf this kingdom. Whitebeard's son, Scarred, seems to have died at the hands of that boy Roy? Haha, let Whitebeard try the water first. The old guy's son and the entire pirate group died there, and he would not let it go. What if Whitebeard doesn't move? Then let the people from the CP agency go to the enemy to find out enough detailed combat strength information, and then the naval headquarters will launch a buster call to annihilate the Ogunjana kingdom. This time, we will definitely take action and completely wipe out the Ogunjana kingdom with thunderous means. The sinful ancient kingdom, the kingdom of Ogufet Saint Ranafati, will eventually be punished by the world government and marine, who represent justice. Seconded. Soon, the discussion among the 5 elders came to an end. Order after order was sent from the Holy Land to naval headquarters and delivered to Sengoku. The other side. Major forces around the world, as well as ordinary people. After seeing the news that the celestial dragons were killed, they also exploded. New World. Groups of seagulls and birds wearing male hats and carrying bags flew over the sea. When he saw the crowd, he shook his body. The rolled-up newspapers slipped from the mouth of the satchel and fell to the bottom. Oh, this time it's free world economic news? Aboard Moby Dick? Seeing the newsbird passing by in the sky, Marco was about to pay, but he didn't expect that the newsbird above just threw a roll of newspapers and fell down. This kind of free behavior instantly made Marco interested. Under normal circumstances, World Economic News will distribute newspapers for free only when major events that shock the world occur. Ogunjana killed world government officials and madly massacred 2 major world government-affiliated kingdoms. Celestial Dragon's St. Charlos was beheaded in public? Ha 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 ha, easy to kill, good to kill, good to kill. This little king is quite interesting. Wait. The great Maelstrom pirates threatened the Ogunjana kingdom. They demanded money, wine, and beauties, but they couldn't get it. Instead, they were annihilated by the entire group. Originally looking at the previous news content, Marco was smiling and praising it, with a hint of surprise and pity for the Ogunjana kingdom. But when he saw the content of the last page of the newspaper, his eyes suddenly widened and his expression changed drastically. Marco's exclamation quickly attracted the attention of all the pirates on the ship. The few pirates who were reading the news behind him also had their mouths open and they were stunned. Chapter 30 The Boiling World. You are all my children. 4/5 please vote for flower evaluation. Half an hour later. On the Moby Dick, all the pirates were yelling angrily. He clamored to destroy the Ogunjana kingdom and avenge Skuyard. It's just that Whitebeard didn't say anything, they just seemed to be yelling like this. Dad, something is very wrong with this kingdom. Even Marine Admiral Kizaru was injured and retreated. Now they have even killed the Celestial Dragons, world government and marine. The headquarters will definitely not let them go. Perhaps without us taking action, this kingdom will be destroyed in the hands of the world government and marine. Beside him, Marco did not lose his ability to think because of Skuyard's death. As a sole member of the White Group, Marco is not only powerful. He is a ship's doctor, and he is also responsible for giving advice to Bai Tuan. There are many things that are unusual about the Ogunjana kingdom. Marco had to think deeply and carefully analyze the anomalies in the Aogu kingdom. For example, it is impossible for world government agents to target the kingdom of Ogu for no reason. CP0 was brutally killed and Marine Admiral Kizaru was injured and escaped. All combinations reveal the horror of this kingdom. This kingdom is so mysterious. Since Prince Roy came to the throne, the Aogu kingdom has completely transformed from being suppressed to an invincible posture sweeping the world. It's hard to believe that this kingdom was deceived and almost destroyed before. The last thing is that Skuyard did a bit too much this time. It can be said that Skuyard's death was completely deserved. Therefore, Marco actually disapproved of the Whitebeard pirates' revenge against the Ogunjana kingdom. You slaughtered other people's citizens on their territory and demanded tribute from them. Otherwise you threatened to destroy the country, but in the end you were killed. Doesn't he deserve it? Although they are pirates, Marco believes that they should be pirates with a moral bottom line. Not the low-level idiot pirate who only makes a name for himself by burning, killing, raping, and looting. Skuyard. Just tell me your name. Scarred. Hearing what Marco said, Whitebeard had a look of worry in his eyes. However, now Ace is hunting down Blackbeard Teach. Whitebeard knows very well that Teach can endure on his ship for 30 years. He even injured the young red-haired Shanks of the 4 Emperors, whose strength may not be something Ace can deal with. Even if Ace now has the strength to fight Marine Admiral, it's not enough. Whitebeard can probably predict Ace's ending. What he is worried about now is if something happens to Ace. I won't be able to spare any time to rescue Ace, Skuyard. So? Marco, you are all my sons. When something happens to his sons, how can a father remain indifferent? Go and tell the king to hand over the guy who killed Scarred to the Whitebeard pirates. Even if the matter is revealed like this, otherwise, the Whitebeard pirates don't mind destroying a kingdom. After saying this, the conquerors towering into the sky erupted, sweeping away the clouds high in the sky. The pirates in the White Group also burst into excited responses. Only Marco did not cheer excitedly, instead, he showed a sad look. Grand Line, a certain sea area, in a tavern. A young man wearing an orange cowboy hat, shirtless and shorts, with a white pirate flag tattoo on his back. As a flame burst out of his hand, it burned the finished newspaper to ashes. Skuyard, you bastard! You're doing those bad things again. Did you hit the iron plate this time? Damn it! Drink all the rum on the bar in one gulp. Ace said angrily and angrily. After learning the whole story, Ace wanted to say that he deserved it. But Skuyard treated him very well and was his good friend. He also once advised the other party to stop killing innocent people indiscriminately, burning, killing and looting. But the other party just agreed on the surface, but later got used to being arrogant and couldn't control it at all. Obviously, they have 4 emperors Whitebeard backing them up. You don't know what restraint is at all, but it will only encourage your arrogance and the confidence to do evil. Even more so, despite the dissuasion of his companions, he would agree to it in a genial manner on the surface. After waiting, it became even more inferior and unlimited. Don't let me do it. Lousy is a pirate, why can't you do it if you say no? We are just good friends, but you are not my Whitebeard daddy. Lousy wants to do it. A pirate must look like a pirate. You talk about benevolence, righteousness and morality, so why don't you become an adventurer? Some people are forced by life to become pirates due to being harmed by the corroded marine. But he's Skuyard. Sorry, I just like to do evil. Although Ace also wants to avenge Skuyard, he is now hunting down Blackbeard Teach. There is no time to do 2 things at the same time. In the end I could only say sorry in my heart. The sin of one's own people killing one's own people is greater than the anger of one's own people being killed by outsiders. Skuyard's matter can only be carried out after he has solved Blackbeard Teach. Wait, Skuyard, after I capture Blackbeard Teach and bring him back to the Whitebeard pirates for execution. I will solve your problem right away. 4 Emperors Charlotte Linlin of the 10,000 Kingdoms, Kaido of the Beasts of Wano-kuni, 4 Emperors Shanks wandering the world, the Revolutionary Army. Hawkeye, Doflamingo, the Emperors of the Dark Underworld. All major forces in the world are aware of this incident. Watch indifferently, watch the fire from the other side, and wait for the show to begin. This is their true writing. Just killing a celestial dragons would not arouse any interest from the truly powerful forces. It's not that they don't dare or can't kill the celestial dragons, it's just that the celestial dragons don't dare to act arrogantly on their territory. Mama, mama, mama. Is it a treasure that even the world government can't help but send out CP7 agents to search for? Mama. What on earth is this, world government? In the castle of Wangguo Cake Island. Aunt Charlotte Linlin stared with terrifying eyes, and stomach acid mucus kept dripping from her mouth, making a corrosive sound when it fell on the floor. Sitting on a small dining table and chairs to the side, the cute girl with long wavy light brown hair raised her hand to fan herself inadvertently. Hey, what even the world government wants to snatch must be something extraordinary. In the hall, there was a man standing in the middle with a long tongue. After Perispero smiled strangely, he spoke to Linlin, the ant who was as big as a hill. As the number 1 in the intelligence industry in this world, the Big Mom pirates have already received detailed information. The CP7 agents attempted to obtain the national treasure of the Oganjana Kingdom. After being discovered, they were all annihilated on the spot. Soon after, Celestial Dragon's St. Charlos was crushed to death, and CP0 Felix was brutally killed by Espada Legion Yami. Admiral Kizaru rushed to escort him and faced Espada Ulquiorra, the 4th of the Espada Legion. Shortly after the 2 sides fought, Admiral Kizaru was defeated and fled. According to reliable information, Admiral Kizaru also had one of his legs broken and was seriously injured. Many big news made these big forces lose their composure. Chapter 31 The Prototype of the Empire. The gears of destiny begin to shift. 5/5 please vote for flower evaluation. Mom. Now they have provoked Whitebeard, and the world government will not let this kingdom go. There is no need for us to join forces and cause unnecessary trouble. Compared to the greed of the eldest brother Perispero, Katakuri, as the second brother, has more leeches. The Kingdom of Oganjana also provoked the 3 major forces of world government, naval headquarters and the Whitebeard pirates. The destruction of the country is just a matter of time. So what if it has 4 emperors level strength? Well, let them test the water first, and then find out more about it later and get the national treasure. After listening to Katakuri's words, Aunt Linlin nodded. Obviously she is not stupid. One of the 4 emperors Whitebeard is going to die, and the world government and naval headquarters are also going to conquer the Oganjana Kingdom. How could she openly launch an offensive to snatch it? Cut. Perispero curled his lips in displeasure and said no more. Time flies, half a month passes in the blink of an eye. The Kingdom of Oganjana. The original King's Hall and the entire palace were bulldozed and rebuilt. A main hall is more than 50 meters high, and the entire palace complex covers an area of tens of thousands of square meters. The whole is white gold, with a gray-blue roof, and the flag of the Ogunjana kingdom is flying on the highest palace. A golden dragon that rides thunder and lightning, a roaring hockey totem that rides divine thunder. Such a huge palace would definitely not be built in just 1 month if it relied on manpower alone. However, who let Roy have so many Manos Grande, cannon fodder? With their hard work day and night, this magnificent palace was officially completed 3 days ago. 20,000 low-level hollows were almost exhausted to death. Even the many ministers and generals of the kingdom looked stunned and in disbelief. Even demon fruit power doesn't have such an exaggerated ability and can be built, right? At this point, the palace named Lingsheng Palace by Roy was built. Not bad. With the palace complex built by Ryotsu, it won't be destroyed so easily in ordinary battles. Sitting on the magnificent and luxurious throne, Roy showed a satisfied smile on his handsome face. The kingdom of Maris and the kingdom of Guder were also destroyed by the Manos Grande Legion. All royal members were eliminated, and the country's title was abolished. It became a town under the kingdom of Ogunjana. In other words, it would be more appropriate to call it Maris Island City, or Gudel Island City. After destroying the kingdom of Maris and the kingdom of Guder, Roy chose to recruit 50,000 soldiers from the two countries. Another 8,000 soldiers who resisted were detained. Subsequently, from the treasury of these two kingdoms, plus those who participated in the plan to confiscate their families and exterminate their families, the ministers, generals, and nobles of the Okugana kingdom. A total of 36.7 tons of gold, 20 boxes of various precious gold and silver jewelry, and 6.5 billion baileys were seized. The rest, etc., will not be repeated one by one. More loot could have been captured, but the kings, ministers and nobles of these two countries just paid tribute to the celestial dragons with a wave of heavenly gold. So they all feel empty. It actually made Roy a little unhappy. This was simply a huge sum of money taken away from his pocket. Forget it, there will be plenty of time to deal with the world government guys in the future. General Cios, how's the recruitment going? After closing the report presented by the assistant minister, Roy looked down at COC and asked, "Back to your majesty, after 10 days of recruitment activities, 50,000 recruits have been recruited in the country. The two countries have each recruited 30,000 troops. Currently, they have all participated in military training. In about a month, they will be formally incorporated into the Legion and assigned to guard various island towns." After being asked what to say, Shioci bowed respectfully and began to report in detail. "There shouldn't be any people who want to rebel against the country, right?" Roy asked again calmly. "Your Majesty, you are worrying too much. With the Manos Grande Legion watching over you, all the new citizens will be honest. What's more, the original two kings and princes and nobles had already caused complaints from the people. Now that His Majesty has conquered these two countries with powerful force and kindness, the people below welcomed us into the country with raised hands." Upon hearing this, a smile appeared on Shioci's face. Shioci grinned at the question coming from Roy's mouth. When talking about the former kings and princes of the two countries, the disdain and disgust in his eyes emerged without any concealment. "Okay. If you have any intention of resisting, you will be directly punished with death without any need to report." Roy nodded. It is not that such a thing as restoration of the country does not exist. The cases of Wanokuni and Dressrosa are there. However, with the strength of Maris and the kingdom of Guder, it is obvious that they do not have this ability. What's more, both members of the royal family were killed by him. Laugh to death and restore the country? Don't give you any chance at all? Just send 2 Jillian Manos Grande over and they will destroy the country hundreds of times for you. One shot of Sero will sweep it away, and it will be useless even if you have thousands of troops. Chapter 32. Annihilate the White Group, Seafood Feast. 1/5 Please vote for flower evaluation. Suddenly, a figure appeared outside the door of the hall. It was an Anbu ninja wearing a gray-purple vest and an animal mask. The guards outside the door did not stop him. The Anbu ninja quickly stepped into the palace door and knelt down on one knee on the red carpet in the center of the hall. See your majesty. Seeing the appearance of the Anbu ninja, Roy hummed slightly and then raised his hand. The Anbu ninja immediately saluted respectfully, then stood up and began to report the situation. Your Majesty, we Anbu. After a while, the ministers and generals in the main hall looked angry and said bluntly that the world government was evil. Even the summoned characters have cold eyes and are extremely disgusted with the world government. You actually dare to send people to my country to gather information? Looking at the ninja who was kneeling on the red carpet after reporting the information. A cold look flashed in Roy's eyes. He underestimated the world government 5 elders. I thought these guys would directly give orders and send naval headquarters to launch a buster call to attack his kingdom. Unexpectedly, I still focused on gathering information first. It seems that a top-notch combat power that can break Kizaru's legs still makes them a little worried. In addition, we have received information that Phoenix Marco, the leader of the Whitebeard pirates and the first team, is heading towards our country. The purpose is to ask us to hand over the man who annihilated Schoolyard and other pirates. Leave it to them, the Whitebeard pirates, to execute. After talking about the actions secretly carried out by the world government, the Anbu ninja spoke again. This time, he came with malicious intentions towards the Oganjana kingdom. He is the messenger of the Whitebeard pirates and the captain of the 1st Division, Phoenix Marco. This is the result of raising an army to investigate. Hey, Whitebeard is quite majestic. Hearing this, Roy snorted coldly. Then he said again. Then let the people from the Whitebeard pirates come and see how shameless Whitebeard can say. Marco the Phoenix. When he read this work in his previous life, he liked this guy quite a lot. If Summit War's hard attack on Admiral Kizaru Perusalino only left a little impression on the audience. So, time jumps to Wano Kuni 2 years later. That was really impressive for the captain of the first team. With one kick, Linlin, the 4 emperors and all the senior officers and sons and daughters of the entire pirate ship were kicked down the towering waterfall. Almost wiped out the team. Again on the Ghost Island, the flames of the Phoenix faced the flames of Todoroki Linlin and gained the upper hand. After that, one person violently defeated the 2 emperors' deputy, Flame Calamity Jin and Plague Quinn. This guy's popularity skyrocketed, and his strength was extremely powerful. The most outrageous thing is that this guy is also a ship doctor. Now, he comes to this world. It would be nice to have face-to-face contact with these people. However, the feeling of 2-dimensional characters in my heart has been greatly reduced. For Roy now, that's just an ordinary character. After all, he can now summon characters from all over the world. In the past half-month, I have gotten along quite well with Urza and Harribel. Although Urza is very brave and bold, she is quite shy when it comes to men and women. Instead, it was the black-skinned Queen Harribel who appeared 2 nights ago. After Roy's gentle contact and comfort, he decided to cook himself, with Roy's help. After prying open the shells and appreciating them for a while, I successfully cooked the shell seafood. I made a very rich seafood meal, which Roy was full of praise for. He first appreciated and tasted it carefully, and then started to eat like crazy for 2 hours. Only then did they both end the meal with satisfaction. The character I used to like, the female wife, has changed from a paper wife to a real wife. Most of the male characters have gone from being liked to having feelings for them. Therefore, in the face of Whitebeard, who I once liked quite a lot, now he is just a conniving, rat-like godson pirate, and the leader of the group who has done all kinds of bad things. Ding! Release a delayed task. The setting sun of the 4 Emperors Pirates. A 4 Emperors pirate group that is about to come to an end. Please join the battle during the Summit War and destroy the Whitebeard pirates under the watchful eyes of naval headquarters and the whole world. Mission reward. 20,000 source coins, a random top fruit, and a random diamond treasure chest 1. A mission was suddenly released again, and it is also the mission to annihilate the 4 Emperors Whitebeard pirates. The rewarded source currency is even as high as 20,000, which is worthy of the 4 Emperors group. You must know that the task rewards issued by the system are calculated separately. That is, you can get mission rewards by destroying the 4 Emperors pirate group. After destroying the target, you can get it from the target and get a large amount of source coins. It was Ying Zheng who touched the wire and won. He accepted this task. Instead of dying under the shameless gang fight of the Blackbeard Teach gang, let me give you a happy death, Whitebeard. Since there is nothing more to discuss, just retreat. The political affairs have started for more than an hour. Seeing that the ministers didn't mention anything else, Roy waved his hand. Yes, Your Majesty the King. After hearing this, the ministers bowed respectfully and left. In the main hall, there were only a few summoned characters left. Following Roy's signal, Ulquiorra, Yami, whale-shaped Ajukas, and Embu Ninja Captain also retreated. Only Urza and Harribel followed Roy back to the harem. Night. Urza returned to her room. The dark-skinned beauty queen, Tia Hellibel, came to Roy's king's palace. He looked at the black beauty who was blinking her golden eyelashes and her cheeks were already turning red. Roy didn't show any pretense. He stepped forward and hugged Harribel into his arms, then pressed against him. Pull. The zipper of the collar was pulled down, revealing the bone mask, and Roy clicked his tongue in displeasure. But he didn't say much, and printed a mark on the corner of Harribel's eye. Sorry, Lord Roy. Harribel's eyes darkened when he noticed this. Still too weak, there are so many masks left behind Arankar. Originally, Harribel didn't pay much attention, but now he met Roy. Then you become very concerned about it, if nothing else, just the seafood dinner last time. Fortunately, the big grapefruit can be pulled out, just like the milk cap, and can be eaten immediately after opening the cap. Otherwise it would be really troublesome. To do something, you have to dig deep into one center, grasp two key points, combine hardness and softness, and work together. In the end, you can achieve your goal perfectly, go straight to Wanlong, and achieve great success. So, Roy is now ready to let Harribel complete his evolution. Break the boundaries between Kion and Shinigami. Complete Vasto Lord's true transformation. Chapter 33 Sister Bay advances. Take control of Vasto Lord. 2/4 please vote for flower evaluation. After a while, after some intimacy with Harribel, Roy didn't forget what he was going to do. Roy stretched out his hand, and a ball of blue-yellow Ryotsu appeared suspended in his palm. This is the captain-level Ryotsu equivalent to 24 Rukunzai. Fuse it with your Hollow's power. You will break the boundaries between Hollow and Shinigami and enter a higher level of evolution. After listening to Roy's story, he looked at the light ball floating on his palm, emitting powerful brilliance. Harribel's heart felt warm, and she slowly approached with great emotion. The vast majestic snow peaks wrapped Roy's hands. Roy's hand immediately fell into it, and Harribel held Roy's hand in the Ryotsu light ball in the generosity as if holding some kind of treasure. Although I don't know what the unit of measurement is for the captain-level Ryotsu of 24 Kar Kensai. But Harribel knew that being able to purify and compress such a huge amount of Ryotsu energy to such a pure level was definitely a very precious treasure. After all, she has lived for hundreds of years, but she has never seen such a method of compressing Ryotsu. Thanks. Even though there were thousands of words in his heart, what finally came out of Harribel's mouth were 2 words of thank you. No matter how much words you say, it is better to use practical actions to express your gratitude to Roy afterwards. Soon, Harribel let go of Roy. The Ryotsu light group and Harribel emit powerful energy. Become one. Ding! Do you want to spend 5,000 source coins plus 24 fleet leader Ryotsu to strengthen tier Harribel? Roy looked stunned. He is ready to use the summoner's ability to help Harribel break through evolution. Unexpectedly, the system actually spoke at the right time. So what's there to hesitate about? Roy immediately said, yes, silently in his heart. Ding! 5,000 source coins plus 24 team leader Ryotsu have been deducted. Start strengthening. With the consumption of 5,000 origin coins and 24 Ryotsu cars, Harribel's radiance became even stronger. Suddenly, Harribel groaned. An extremely terrifying Ryotsu erupted, and a torrential golden rain fell from the sky outside the palace. Because Ryotsu is too big and powerful, it condenses into Ryotsu raindrops and falls. The palace was also agitated by this sudden change. Fortunately, Ulquiorra took action and the ordinary people in the palace were saved. Otherwise, I don't know how many ordinary people would be crushed to death by this terrible Ryotsu, and their souls would be shattered. And this was only over in the blink of an eye, because Roy also took action. Negation barrier. Seeing this, Roy's expression remained unchanged and he just raised his hand. A small golden cubic energy crystal structure formed and flew out from his palm. Then it expanded rapidly, wrapping the bedroom where the two of them were. All the effects of Harribel's breakthrough evolution suddenly disappeared. This move was used by Zhe Laoliu against Ulquiorra in the original work. The brief exile of Ulquiorra was sealed into another dimension. Then there was a chance for Inoue to heal Yijigu, so that Yijigu could have a decisive battle with the opponent. This move is used by everyone in Espada, not to mention Roy. Although Aizen created and gave Espada, Roy can also use it. Roy then informed Ulquiorra through the summoner's spiritual contact and briefly explained the situation. After learning about the sudden change in the palace, Ulquiorra expressed her understanding. He will take care of all external affairs. After doing all this, Roy looked at Harribel, who was undergoing a breakthrough evolution. I saw Harribel, who was also in a different dimension, surrounded by two golden and blue Ryotsu. Vasto Lord's Ryotsu gradually merges with Shinigami's and Captain's Ryotsu visibly. During the fusion of the two original powers, a cocoon several meters large was formed. Roy thought it would take a long time, but he didn't expect it to break open in less than an hour. What caught his eye was a blue and white shark. Immediately afterwards, Shark's 6 to 7 meter huge body gradually shrank, and in the process, Shark's skin began to break and fragment. Soon, a dark-skinned beauty with brown skin, smooth and delicate skin, but no hair, appeared in front of Roy. After taking a few appreciative glances at the dark-skinned beauty in front of him, Roy discovered it. At this time, not only the mask on Harribel's body has completely disappeared, but also the empty hole under her lower abdomen has completely disappeared. The whole person, virtual, has become complete. It's like becoming a whole, or a complete and real spiritual creature. Roy was also extremely satisfied. Harribel's properties panel was immediately opened. Open black lens bracket tier Harribel close black lens bracket level, platinum level, upper level. Talent abilities. Wang Shu's flash, high-speed regeneration, black Sero, blue sword cannon, masked arms, original return. Race. Spirit. Wang Shu, talent characteristics, equipment, Zanpakuto Empress Shark. Favorability. 89 loyalty. 100, max, comprehensive evaluation. Break the boundaries between Kion and Shinigami and move towards a higher level of evolution. The queen who controls the ocean currents and the Void clan. After seeing Harribel's new panel, Roy nodded happily. With only 5,000 origin coins and 24 fleet captain Ryotsu, Harribel completed the race jump. His strength jumped 2 levels in a row, reaching the upper level of platinum. The originally virtual race has also transformed into an existence with the characteristics of Wang Shu. Not only can he control changes in ocean currents, but he can also control the void. The essence of life has become a pure spiritual life than the soul, Shinigami, after death. In addition, with the evolution of Harribel's life essence, her strength has been greatly improved. Roy also felt it and became stronger. Harribel, what level of Manos Grande can you command now? Roy took 2 steps forward, hugged Harribel in front of him, and asked. Roy was curious about Harribel's imaginary nature. How powerful is the degree of dominance? I now have control over Vasto Lord. Feeling the heat from Roy, Harribel blushed, but soon, he adjusted. Then, he gave an answer that surprised Roy. Chapter 34 Wang Shu Harribel. Discuss and fight. 3/4 please vote for flower evaluation. Roy knew very well that Superior Manos Grande could control hollows of a lower level than himself. But there has never been a situation where Manos Grande, the superior of Vasto Lord, was able to dominate Ajukas. Unless it is conquered by force. The virtual level strength ranking is generally based on the lowest level virtual. Ordinary voids, powerful voids, and giant voids can all be planned as the lowest level cannon fodder voids. Above this is what was born after hundreds of ordinary hollows devoured each other and fused. The lowest level Manos Grande, Jillian, who has no independent consciousness and acts based on instinct. Then there's Jillian, who gave birth to an independent consciousness, and Ajukas, who evolved after devouring his own kind. Only Ajukas have the ability to command and control subordinates. Furthermore, neither Ajukas nor Vasto Lord had the ability to dominate Manos Grande, the superior of these two classes. Some also use violent means to carry out forced enslavement and control. And what about Harribel? It's total slavery. As long as a thought activates Wang Shu's innate characteristics, he can control Wang Shu, who is given the thought and achieve control. Not as strong as you think, like those Vasto Lord of Autonomous Arankar, and those ranked 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th. I can't even control it. Seeing the surprised expression on Roy's handsome face, Harribel shook her head slightly. Then he explained all the details of the abilities to Roy. After listening to Harribel's explanation, Roy nodded in understanding. This was quite different from what he had guessed. Vasto Lord, who has low slave control strength, is already very strong. After all, no matter how weak he is, Harribel can already enslave the entire Hueco Mundo's full-level Manos Grande. Go down to the most cannon fodder ordinary void, go up to the apex of void, the highest level Manos Grande, Vasto Lord. What else is not satisfying? And this is not a fixed limit. As long as Harribel is strong enough, she may one day be able to directly enslave Emperor Baragan, who is clearly the second in line, but acts like the second in command, his boss. Although Baragan hasn't returned yet, Roy is sure. This Espada Legion series is bound to be collected. Well, as I expected, it's pretty much the same. Stroking the blonde hair of the beauty in his arms, Roy smiled. Huh? Mr. Roy. Suddenly, Harribel's expression changed. Ahem. Harribel, let me see your masked weapon and original return. Your strength has skyrocketed so much, it's just the right time to spar with me to help you stabilize your combat power. Given the current condition of the engine, Roy thought it would be a good idea to test out the new Harribel. Give it a try and see how powerful she is now. Good. Hearing this, Harribel also nodded in agreement. Although the strength has increased by more than 10 times, there is no situation where it is unstable and cannot be controlled. But she still wanted to try and see how strong she was now. Roy didn't say much, untied the negation barrier, then raised his hand and flipped it over with one hand. The next moment, an overturned mirror world appeared, and the two of them instantly entered the world of mirror space. This is, seeing the world changing in the blink of an eye, and after further investigation, the expression on Harribel's sister's face suddenly changed. Disappeared. The entire world, the entire life form of the Aogu kingdom, except for the two of them, all disappeared. Harribel looked at Roy in shock, her expression and eyes asking. Don't be surprised, this is just a small trick of mine. Roy smiled and hugged Harribel's intoxicating fragrance, and explained. This is a mirror space that is completely opposite to the real world, a special world that completely replicates the real world. No matter what kind of war happens inside, it will not affect the real world. However, if the force is too strong, it will not be able to hold on and collapse. Of course, people in this world probably can't do it. If you want to destroy the mirror space I created, you need at least 20 people of the same level as you to do it with all their strength. Hearing this, Harribel's cold face showed a surprised look. At least 20 people of the same level as her need to join forces to destroy this mirror space? Harribel couldn't believe what she was hearing. In other words, if Roy wants to, he can use mirror space to imprison anyone who provokes him. Okay. Get ready to start, Harribel nodded and said no more. Soon, the sparring and fighting between the two began. After the warm-up sparring session ended and the real battle began, Roy was surprised to find out. Harribel actually took on an upgraded new posture, which was completely new inside and out. As Roy punched out, the mammoth Ryotsu Golden Dragon came out. Harribel screamed in pain, and blood flowed out from the place caused by the attack. The next 10 minutes or so will be Roy's fighting time. Harribel was losing ground and screaming in pain. Finally, I couldn't bear it any longer, and a massive amount of seawater spurted out. Return to the blade. Masked arms. Harribel directly used return blade, and a large amount of seawater immediately spewed out and spread all over the ground. Harribel also directly entered the return state. Her strength instantly increased 5 times, and she barely managed to survive Roy's attack. But soon, Roy gradually began to use his full strength. Because Harribel's body armor made Roy's fighting spirit rise just by looking at it. Harribel soon lost again. The sea water surged again and sprayed in Roy's direction. But Roy had no intention of evading. The final blow after his defeat had no power at all. It even feels a bit like the sweet feeling of a proud queen beating her chest and stamping her feet after being subdued. Original return. Finally, when Harribel faced Roy for the first time, she used her strongest move. The strength suddenly surged 10 times more terrifyingly. Chapter 35 Marco arrives. Cut off the light devil. 4 quarters. Please vote for flower evaluation. After a night passed, Roy glanced at Harribel, who was still resting, and rubbed his waist. As expected of masked arms and original return. When Harribel uses the mask arms, his entire body will be covered with a layer of Veronkar's armor, which increases his defense and attack power very powerfully. Moreover, this masked weapon can be put on and taken off at will. It's not considered a return sword, but it's better than a return sword, and its strength is at least 5 times greater. After using the original return, it is the second stage of the return blade. The armor attached to the body part transforms into a beast, and it can control the golden Ryotsu, forming a golden Ryotsu thunder attack. The speed and aggressiveness are ridiculously powerful. The ultimate sense of speed, coupled with the thunder and lightning, made Roy almost lose his arms several times. Fortunately, his endurance were very strong, and Harribel was defeated in the end. The two fought non-stop, and they fought 7 fierce battles between the gold and platinum levels. When he first faced Harribel's new and strongest stance, Roy, who had never fought before, was careless and did not dodge. As a result, it didn't take long for him to be defeated by Harribel. Then, starting from the second game, it is Harribel's road to survival. Harribel, this guy really doesn't spare any effort. The speed is 98 seconds. I can barely do this move at 25 seconds. After stretching his body, which had begun to recover, Roy clicked his tongue and said to himself with a slight sigh. Although the battle was a little tiring, the result was hearty and refreshing. The strength has also officially reached the highest level of gold. Full of rewards. Well, Harribel has also gained a lot. Click. At Roy's instruction, 2 sweet-looking blonde maids, 1.65 meters tall, walked in. They began to bathe and change Roy, and then gave him a considerate wash. Lisa, Effie, stay here, wait until the princess wakes up, and then take good care of her. Putting on the golden and red king's robe, Roy looked at the 2 maids and said, "Yes, your majesty Roy." The 2 maids were selected from the nobles who had been loyal to the Ogu royal family for generations. She has been trained since she was a child and instilled in her the idea that the Ogunjana royal family is above all else. She is also a woman who can devote herself to the royal family at any time. Therefore, when facing Roy, there is no need to be as strict and reserved as others. On the issue of address, they will also be more cordial. After explaining the matter, Roy strode away. The remaining 2 maids looked at each other, then opened the bead curtain and walked into the bedroom in the inner hall. When they saw the ground, they suddenly screamed in surprise. "Oh my God! How come there are so many? God, your majesty Roy, there are so many." It's unbelievable that his majesty Roy can still be so energetic. Soon, the 2 blushing little maids realized something and secretly glanced at Harribel, who was still resting. I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. It was really hard on the princess. It's so hard. Just thinking about the possibility of the 2 of them in the future. I'm a little hopeful, but also a little scared. Then, he silently started to pack it up, shortly after the start of Parliament. An ensign communications officer stepped into the hall. His Majesty the King, captain of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco is asking for an audience outside the palace. Ensign's communications officer knelt down to report. It's a bit slow. Roy raised his eyebrows, not surprised at all by Marco's arrival. After all, Anbu's ninjas had reported it earlier. It had been a few days before Marco arrived at the Ogunjana kingdom. The black shadow flashed, and a figure appeared under the steps of Roy's throne, kneeling on one knee. Although he didn't speak, he reported the situation in detail through the summoner's spiritual contact. It turns out that Roy had been busy since nightfall yesterday, and today the morning meeting started just before noon. The Anbu ninja had no chance to report the situation to Roy. Marco had arrived as early as 8 o'clock last night. He rushed to the royal city without stopping, wanting to meet Roy as soon as possible. But he was told that the king was busy with affairs and would discuss things tomorrow. The palace guards still knew about Whitebeard's visit, because they had also received the notice, but when they looked at Marco and others, they couldn't hide the disgust in their eyes. After all, people under Whitebeard's banner killed more than 100 people in their kingdom, and they haven't forgotten it yet. Accompanying him is the captain of the 5th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, the great swordsman Foil Bista. Relying on his strong strength and relying on Father Whitebeard, Bista saw this and wanted to break through the obstruction. However, Marco did not lose his mind at the critical moment and directly scolded Foil Bista. In the end, without the help of Espada and Manos Grande, Marco left with his Foil Vista and a group of younger brothers. Now, this is the 4th time Marco has asked to see Roy. "Let them in," Roy said as he crossed his legs out of boredom and rested his chin with one hand. "Yes, Your Majesty the King." The communications officer obeyed the order and turned around to leave. 10 minutes later, Marco, who had a blonde mohawk and exposed his chest, and a rugged man dressed as a gentleman, with a foil vista, walked into the hall. As for the other pirate minions, but he is not qualified to take a step into the palace. "Your Majesty Roy, is it okay to call you this?" He walked to the center of the red carpet and glanced around at the people in the hall. Civil and military personnel stood in 2 rows, summoned characters stood in 1 row, and ordinary humans stood in another row. Nothing wrong. The legendary man who broke Admiral of Headquarters Kizaru's leg. Ulquiorra Cipher, the man known as the light-breaking demon in the sea, who made Admiral Kizaru embarrassed to say, "Have you ever been kicked by lightspeed? From now on," is among them. I don't recognize the dashing woman with long crimson hair and a half-armor skirt. Yami is also there to kill the monsters of CP0, the sea monster that destroys the country, the strange whale monster, and feeling the terrifying momentum that was constantly pressing towards him and Foil Bista, Marco secretly complained in his heart. Fortunately, I and others did not act impulsively last night, otherwise, there would have been dozens more corpses at the gate of the palace last night. Chapter 36. Do you want me to teach you? Silent Whitebeard, 1/4 please vote for flower evaluation. As the second in command of the Whitebeard Pirates, Marco is still responsible for the companions who came with him. No matter how much frustration and anger you have, you can never let it out here. He needs to be responsible for the lives of these companions. After a little silence, Marco, who had already calmed down, spoke under pressure. "Presumably Your Majesty Roy should know the reason why we came to the Oganjana Kingdom this time. I won't go around in circles with Your Majesty, and hand over the man who killed Skuyard and all the pirates under his banner. It will be handled by our Whitebeard Pirates, and the Whitebeard Pirates will no longer pursue this matter. Of course, this is what our father, 4 Emperors Whitebeard, said himself." After that, he looked directly at Roy, showing no trace of stage fright in his aura. It seems that if they don't give the Whitebeard Pirates a satisfactory answer, they will never give up and start a war. Obviously, you can't be timid, let alone lose Whitebeard's reputation. What's more, Marco and Foil Bista are not weak in their own strength. When he spoke, he was still very tough. Ridiculous remarks. The sinner Skuyard brutally killed hundreds of ordinary people in the king's land. He was so unlucky that he was killed. "Those who kill will always be killed," Roy scoffed. He replied in an indifferent tone. "I have been a pirate for decades, and my ideas are still so extreme and double-standard." He is indeed a pirate. No matter how benevolent and moral he is, he still cannot escape the aura of being a thief. Marco wanted to continue saying that Roy's men also wiped out nearly 1,000 people including Skuyard. The phone bug in my arms suddenly rang. Marco was stunned for a moment, then reached out and took out the phone bug. Moses, Dad? Dad, after answering the call, Marco and Foil Bista quickly shouted. "Let me speak for myself, Marco, on the waters of the New World." Whitebeard waved his hand and asked his son, who was holding the monitoring phone bug, to step back. Whitebeard also heard the entire exchange between the two through the phone bug carried by Marco. Seeing that Marco seems to be unable to defeat Roy, Let's look at Roy's fearless attitude. He already knew that Marco and Bista alone couldn't handle it. Therefore, I can only come forward in person, he. Watching Marco suddenly pull out the Whitebeard version of the phone bug, Roy showed an expected expression. So at the beginning, he didn't pay much attention to Marco. He was waiting for Whitebeard to jump out and negotiate with him. Sure enough, Whitebeard couldn't help it, couldn't he? Roy, I just have a request. Once I tell you who the person who killed Schoolyard and the others is, I will stop there and will never pursue any further investigation afterwards. In addition, I will compensate the civilians who were harmed by those bastards in Schoolyard. How? Whitebeard's old but majestic voice sounded in the hall. All the senior officials of the Okugana kingdom present, without exception, could feel through the phone bug the majesty of Haki, the powerful four emperors who dominates the New World Sea area. Hear the words. Roy was also a little surprised. Unexpectedly, when it was Whitebeard's turn to negotiate with him in person, Whitebeard's words turned around. It's not a gesture of asking for favors, it's a right of publicity. Not only that, but will the victims be compensated? It means that he knows that he can't hand the person over, so he plans to change his mind and find out who the person is. Are you planning to hunt down yourself? Interesting. However, Whitebeard and the others have made a misunderstanding. That is, the guy who killed nearly 1,000 pirates in Schoolyard was not a human. Of course, Roy couldn't tell Whitebeard. He believed that before long, Whitebeard would be able to find out the specific situation at that time through his own power. Whitebeard, you have been a pirate all your life, taking revenge and killing to pay for your life. You don't need me to teach you this kind of thing personally, right? Roy looked at the Whitebeard phone bug in front of him with an indifferent tone. The strong and domineering momentum was naturally released, shocking the phone bug who played Whitebeard to the point of breaking into a cold sweat. Whitebeard on the other side did not change his expression after hearing this. Whitebeard has lived for such a long time and has never seen any big scenes. It's just Roy's extremely tough attitude that he appreciates a little. Even knowing how to face him, the strongest man in the world, Whitebeard Edward Newgate. He still didn't give in as he should, and instead came to teach him a lesson. Whitebeard didn't speak. The pirate captain and officers on the Moby Dick thought that their father was angry. In an instant, they all became angry. They picked up the guys one by one, full of energy, and couldn't wait for Whitebeard's order. Rush to the first half of the Grand Line and tear the arrogant Imp King into pieces. Since you want a family, the family should be warm and kind. Instead of being kind to others, like a family, they can secretly stab one of their own at critical moments. To the outside world, he has an ugly face, showing that pirates do what they do without any violation. Whitebeard, I respect you as the Pirate Four Emperors, protecting the safety of the people in a sea area, and respect your beautiful idea of having a family. But please remember to me, take care of your so-called family, and don't accept all the stinky sweet potatoes and rotten tomatoes. Not only will you cause trouble for yourself, but you will also become some scum with a purpose and gain the confidence to be lawless. Silence. Roy's words hit Whitebeard hard in the heart. For a moment, Whitebeard's face became terrifyingly gloomy. He didn't speak for a long time. Chapter 37 The Stunned Pony, Conqueror's Haki, 2/4 please vote for flower evaluation. And when Roy finished speaking about education, everyone in the King's Hall was shocked. Only when summoning the characters, I didn't feel there was anything wrong with what Roy said. In this case, the other party should be glad that His Majesty did not order an active attack to wipe out all their lairs. This group of low-level pirates should respectfully come before His Majesty, kneel down and beg for mercy. Yami bared her teeth and looked at Marco and Bista with cruel eyes. Damn it. It's been so long since he came to this world, and he hasn't eaten pirates yet. What does it taste like? Only Marco and Foil Bista didn't notice that Yami was thinking about how to devour them, otherwise they would have broken out in cold sweat. Being targeted by a Four Emperors level monster would be terrifying to everyone. The expressions on the two people's faces at this moment are as exciting as they can be. Even with shock and dementia, there is also a little anger. How dare you? How dare this kid talk to Dad like this? Foil Bista's eyes were filled with anger, and his mustache was trembling with anger. Marco could only hold on to the Foil Bista tightly to prevent him from being impulsive. Otherwise, the dozens of corpses owed last night would have to be paid back today. However, from Marco's increasingly cold expression, it is not difficult to see that Marco is also extremely angry at this moment. Because their beloved father was severely scolded and educated because of Skuyard's incident. But everything they said makes sense. What kind of backstabbing of family members? Killing people to pay for their lives. All are real cases, and it just happened not long ago. This is very uncomfortable. Skuyard, you deserve to die. This time I actually made my father lose so much face. Been taught a lesson. After a long silence, the words transmitted by the phone bug shocked everyone present. Marco Bista and Marco Bista also said, their mouths widened in shock, and their eyes widened, almost not bulging. His face was full of shock as his worldview collapsed. Unexpectedly, Whitebeard's imaginary thunderous fury not only did not appear, but instead said, "Tot," to Roy. It almost scared the two of them to death. It was really hard to imagine that they could hear such words from their father. I learned a lesson about Skuyard. So, what's your choice, Roy? He accepted the lesson generously, but Whitebeard was obviously not that easy to persuade. What Roy said about backstabbing his family members was deviant. Whitebeard didn't even get angry when he was poked in the wound. Because of these things, as a father, he is sometimes quite helpless. I can only try my best to be tolerant and slowly educate and correct my sons. But if his son makes a mistake, he can be beaten, crippled, educated, or punished. But all this will be done by him, Whitebeard himself. But an outsider, it has to be you after all, Whitebeard. In Summit War, even if he was stabbed in the back by Skuyard, a brainless idiot, he could still hug and forgive him. Even before he died, he was still teaching and educating his son. But he never regarded his sons as equals. All he knew was to save the son of his former rival and old friend, who was also his own son. But he didn't want to, but he still took many of his sons to jump into the fire pit. Although most are voluntary, however, with such a huge pirate base, not all of them are united. If you have lived enough, then just come and fight, Whitebeard. Faced with Whitebeard, who still refused to give up, Roy also pointed it out directly. The tone was full of imperial majesty, and at the same time as he spoke, the terrifying Conqueror's hockey was released. Boom! Click click! The strong wind roared throughout the hall, and Roy's golden Conqueror's hockey ravaged the entire hall like a thunderous wave. The palace built by 20,000 ordinary Shu and Waxu is several times harder than ordinary buildings. At this time, the walls and the ground were also somewhat unable to withstand the terrifying impact of this intensity. Even the strongest one, the majestic embossed Panlong column, is gradually experiencing cracks. Conqueror's hockey. This guy, looking at Roy, who suddenly burst into Conqueror's hockey, Marco and Bista's eyes widened again. The body stiffened suddenly. They never expected that the boy in front of them, who looked to be only 17 or 18 years old, would be a natural hegemon among millions of people. The qualifications of a king, Conqueror's hockey. Not only that, the opponent's Conqueror's hockey can even cause damage to real matter. What an appalling thing. In the whole world, the only person who possesses this terrifying Conqueror's hockey is 4 Emperor's red-haired shanks. Chapter 38 Declaration of War. The rat is on the move. 3/4 please vote for flower evaluation. See it with your own eyes, and experience firsthand the shock unleashed by the second owner of such a fearsome Conqueror's hockey. Marco Foil Bista even changed his expression. He couldn't help but exclaimed. Shocked exclamations resounded through the phone bug and also on the Moby Dick in New World. Whitebeard's eyes changed slightly, and he stared at the phone bug, as if he wanted to see clearly what was going on the other side through the phone bug. Only then could Marco, who had been active in the New World for 10 years, lose his composure and scream in shock. Your Conqueror's hockey can actually interfere with real objects and cause damage? Whitebeard didn't have to wait long before Marco's incredible question reached his ears. This time Whitebeard really couldn't keep calm. Conqueror's hockey, capable of causing damage to objects? Where did this monster come from? If they remember correctly, the basic information they can learn from the newspapers is that this young king is only 17 or 18 years old. He is only 17 years old and has already mastered such terrifying abilities. If he is given another 5 or 10 years, wouldn't he be able to dominate the world directly? No, this is not an incredible question. After all, the opponent has a 4 Emperors level strongman who crushed Admiral Kizaru, and a subordinate who is suspected to be Admiral level and killed CP0. The subordinates under his command are already so powerful. As a person who can order them, what can he do with his own strength? Maybe this young king is the real most terrifying enemy of that kingdom. Ku-la-la-la-la. Suddenly, the phone bug started laughing heartily. Hockey's round eyes became mighty, and Whitebeard's wild voice came. Kid, have you spent all these years as an old man in vain? The title of Whitebeard 4 Emperors was not given by others, but was earned with 1 punch and 1 knife. Roy, I remember you. I hope you won't regret the decision you made today. Marco, Bista, come back. Finally, Whitebeard let out a burst of heroic laughter, followed by cheers. Whitebeard finally responded to Roy's declaration of war. The world has forgotten Whitebeard's reputation. Guys, get ready for a big fight. Oh. Snap. The phone went dead, and Marco swallowed. He looked at Roy, who was looking at them on the throne with an indifferent expression. Moving his eyes around, he discovered that something was wrong with the entire hall. Everyone looked at the two of them, and a terrifying aura pressed against them. Daddy, you are Hockey. But have you forgotten that you still have 2 sons in their base camp? Marco was really unsure now, fearing that the other party would attack in groups and capture them first. This will prevent the loss of 2 high-end combat power in the future battle with the Whitebeard pirates. Go back, I have no interest in you. Waving his hand casually, Roy glanced at the two of them with some boredom. Whitebeard has already given him enough face. He wouldn't be that shameless person and take the opportunity to take down Marco Bista and the other 2. Whitebeard also knew this, so he dared to say those words. He simply believed that Roy would not take the opportunity to take action when he had never met someone before, or even when the 2 parties were enemies. A king who dares to kill celestial dragons and possesses the same type of conqueror's Hockey as the red-haired shanks of the 4 emperors. He would not even have this bit of grace and behave in a way that is shameful. Thank you. Marco nodded, giving Roy a sincere nod. He turned around and left with Bista. Not a wordy gesture at all. Just kidding, if you don't run away now, when will you wait? Just now, his back was covered in sweat from the terrifying momentum. Your Majesty, are you going to let them leave like this? After Marco Bista left, Ulquiorra looked at Roy and asked, HMPH, we should keep them all. Yami also interrupted at the right time. He had been staring at the two of them for a long time, thinking that he could have another meal today. Unexpectedly, His Majesty the King actually let them run away. Roy did not answer Ulquiorra's inquiry, but looked at Yami with deep eyes. Forehead. Seeing Roy's oppressive eyes, Yami's expression froze and she didn't dare to say anything more. You don't need to pay much attention to the Whitebeard pirates. The real big deal is the naval headquarters. Be prepared for your time to shine. The Anbu ninja's intelligence has slowly developed to the territory of naval headquarters. With the Anbu ninja's sneaking and disguise skills, some secret information was obtained. Roy already knew the news that Marine was deploying elite masters within a certain area of the headquarters. Obviously, it has not yet been determined whether to launch a buster call, but the steps to launch a buster call are already being implemented. In addition, a lot of rats have appeared in China recently. We are constantly searching for detailed information about this kingdom and so on. Roy also knows all of this. Because the choice was to kill half and keep the other half, release some true and false information. Let the rats have a good time and take them back to their hometown. Finally, after they finish all this, annihilate them all in one fell swoop. Chapter 39 Jealous Urza. Saturn's Command. 4 quarters. Please vote for flower evaluation. After explaining some things and announcing the end of the parliament, Roy stood up from the throne. At the bottom of the steps of the throne, Urza, wearing an armored skirt, immediately came up to her. Then he took the initiative to hold Roy's arm. Hearing a clang sound, Roy felt that he was suddenly surrounded by a hard force. I have to say, Urza is really big, it's just that this armor is too intrusive. It seems that we still need to untie this little girl's knot. Looking at Urza's almost perfect profile, it was clear that she was a queen, a royal sister, and a Lolita. But the shadow of a child hidden deep in his eyes never goes away, which makes people feel distressed. You have to find an opportunity to solve a problem. Roy sniffed the fragrance of the beauty next to him and thought to himself. But if you want to solve Urza's knot, you need to return to the world of fairy tale. This is where it gets difficult. For now, Roy has no way of traveling across the world. We can only ask how the system operates later. You seemed to have a great time last night. Just when Roy was still thinking of a way to solve Urza's shadow. Urza put her white palm on his waist, stretched out two slender fingers, and gently pinched a piece of meat. For a moment, Roy shuddered violently. He turned to look at Urza with a puzzled expression, and then heard what Urza said. Realizing that the fairy queen might be jealous, Roy couldn't help but feel amused. Recently, he really didn't seem to be looking for Urza much, so it was not surprising that the other party had this reaction. Tia told me that she doesn't mind if you come along. Raising his hand to hold Urza's soft hand on her waist, Roy looked at the woman in front of him affectionately. He didn't hold Urza in his arms until he stared at the other person until his face turned red and the latter couldn't help but look away. Don't you blush when you say something like this? Urza complained somewhat speechlessly. She said this, but her increasingly red face betrayed her true inner thoughts. Don't say those words with affection in your eyes, you bastard. Without Urza's slight protest, Roy hugged Urza and left. Have fun and date in the palace. When night fell, the two returned to the palace. Roy turned into a chef again with Urza's permission. First, I worked with Urza to make a dish of shredded tongue, and then made a dish of hand-ground soy milk. One after another delicacies were presented, ending with a seafood feast. Door. Harribel, who was about to knock on the door, smelled the familiar smell of seafood dinner and turned around to leave. You came just in time. Urza has eaten and rested first. Unexpectedly, the door was suddenly pushed open, and Roy pulled Harribel in. Huh? The other side. Naval headquarters? In the marshal's office. Bulu bulu. Bruulu bru bru. Suddenly, Sengoku, who was feeding some important documents to the lamb next to him and letting them eat and digest them, stopped. On the desk, there is a small phone bug with a unique shape. At this time, the person the phone bug was imitating turned out to be one of the most powerful people in the world, one of the 5 elders, Saint Jekalusha Satan. Moses, I'm Sengoku. Picking up the phone call from the man who was playing the role of Saint Satan, Sengoku thought to himself. After such a long time, is it finally here? It was exactly what Sengoku thought and expected. As soon as the call was connected, there was no trace of ink or delay from Saint Satan. He directly said, after so many days of intelligence exploration, CP0 has figured out the entire combat strength of the Ogunjana Kingdom. Later, a list of the high-level combat forces of the Ogunjana Kingdom will be passed to you. After considering the situation, you can allocate high-end combat power, form a top fleet, and launch a buster call to the Ogunjana Kingdom to annihilate it. Remember, we must completely annihilate them at all costs. In this operation, CP0 will coordinate the attack and serve as a supervising team to assist you in completing the infiltration mission and dismantle the enemy's defense line from within. Chat. A few minutes later, Satan Saint was the first to hang up the phone bug. But Sengoku, who was in the marshal's office, had a gloomy face and said nothing. Damn 5 elders. The celestial dragons are the ones who cause trouble and end up cleaning up the mess and wiping their butts. Always executed by Marine. After Perusalino returned from a serious injury, he told Sengoku meaningfully. Marine's 3 top combat forces are dispatched collectively, and they may be able to capture the Legion commander of the Kingdom of Agu, Espada Ulquiorra. Note. This refers to 3 people fighting Ulquiorra alone, rather than the entire Ogunjana Kingdom. Even Ulquiorra, who is apparently the strongest, needs to dispatch 3 admirals to deal with it before he can win. What about everyone else? 4th Espada Ulquiorra claimed that he was ranked 4th, that is, except for him and Yami. There are 8 members of this Espada Legion who have yet to show up. The foundation of a kingdom cannot be as simple as what it appears on the surface, right? The enemy still has at least 8 super strong men who have not shown up. Naval headquarters is going to fight with them. Chapter 40. Going to war against 2 imperial regiments at the same time? 1/4 please vote for flower evaluation. What? You say this is a trick used by the enemy, but in fact these 2 are the only ones in the Espada Legion that are so powerful. This is the real combat power, and the rest are just soldiers and generals. Where is the detailed information? Where is the evidence? Now that the Holy Land has opened its mouth, are they planning not to send out any soldiers and let Marine deal with that kind of monster? Send CP0 to coordinate operations to conduct infiltration missions, and also serve as combat supervisors? I'm afraid he didn't go directly to the so-called national treasure. Damn it. Now Sengoku just hopes that the information sent from Saturn is true and effective. Don't expect that the information you will get back then will be bricks thrown selectively by the enemy to use as bait for them. Sengoku stroked his forehead with a slight headache. Your Excellency Marshal, this is the secret message Lord Saturn asked me to give to you among the 5 elders. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the door of the Marshal's office. The face is wearing a white mask. It is not clear whether it is human skin or a mask. One eye is black and the other is white. There is a scar on the right eye, his ears are wearing robot earmuffs, and he has a light beard. Wearing a white dome hat, a long blue-black scarf with many blue polka dots hangs naturally from the shoulders. Wearing a long white coat, a white double-breasted formal suit, a dark tie, and a medal on his chest. This outfit undoubtedly shows the identity of the visitor. World Government Cipher Pole is the strongest group, CP0. And this person will intervene in the duel between Cutie Duo and King Luffy in the future decisive battle on Onigashima. And successfully attacked King Luffy, and finally was beaten by Cute Duo with a stick until CP0 Guernica's life and death were unknown. A strange color flashed across Sengoku's sharp eyes, and he said in an unchanging tone, "Come in, CP0. The action is really fast. Thank you, Marshal Your Excellency." CP0 thanked him politely and walked into the Marshal's office. CP0 at this time is not like Rob Lucci in the future. After becoming a dog for the Celestial Dragons, he showed no signs of looking down upon the most disrespectful Marine Marshal Akainu in history. After all, the Marine Marshal in front of him is very prestigious, and he may even be assigned to serve in the Holy Land in the future. Guernica is not a fool, and there is no need to offend such a big boss just for that moment of power and addiction. After all, there is a commander-in-chief of the armed forces above him, supported by Kong. Let's take a look at Akainu, who will become Marine Marshal in the future. What's his background? Former teacher and head coach of Marine, Black Arm Zephyr quit Marine and established a new Marine. In the end, he was violently killed by the student Perusolino. Rob Lucci has the support of Celestial Dragons behind him, and his strength is comparable to that of Admiral. It's natural to be arrogant. This, not to mention what Guernica was thinking in her heart. When Sengoku took the secret document brought by CP0 and opened it to read, Sengoku was stunned. The secret documents that were opened turned out to be the high-level combat power information of the Oganjana Kingdom. Open black lens bracket Ulquiorra cipher close black lens bracket identity. Commander of the Guards Corps of the Kingdom of Oganjana, 4th in the Espada Corps. Information. Under normal conditions, his strength is Admiral level. After undergoing the Return to the Blade transformation, he once suppressed Marine Admiral Kizaru with strength, destructive power, and speed, and seriously injured him and broke one of his legs. Preliminary judgment shows that the target is extremely dangerous, on the same level as the Pirate 4 Emperors. Open black lens bracket Yami Largo close black lens bracket status. 10th Espada Legion information. His strength is hard to estimate. He once brutally murdered CP0 member Tang and Felix unilaterally. Preliminary judgment requires 3 elite vice admirals to defeat. The Siren of Destruction Water Demon Bazaar. Identity. Known as Marine Vanguard General Information. The strength is unknown. It is suspected that those who take the ability to control seawater or telekinesis can set off a 100-meter level tsunami. Preliminary judgment. Aokiji Admiral needs to be dispatched to kill him first. Open black lens bracket tier Harribel close black lens bracket identity. Princess Roy of King Jana the 9th. Information. Not enough information. Open black lens bracket Elsa Shukaredo close black lens bracket. Identity. Princess Roy of King Jana IX. Information. Insufficient information. Open black lens bracket Ogunjana IX. King Roy close black lens bracket. His strength is unknown. He is 17 years old and the last member of his royal family. This man is extremely dangerous. He has the imperial level Espada Legion under his command, tens of thousands of Manos Grande, and dozens of Jillian Manos Grande. Their destructive power is astonishing. If possible, control this person at all costs. Ogunjana Kingdom Intelligence Summary. It is currently known that there are 2 members of the Espada Legion on the surface, the 4th Espada and the 10th Espada, and the remaining members are currently unknown. It requires at least 5 Marine Admirals, dozens of Marine Vice Admirals, and 100,000 elite Marines to conquer. All the information that CP0 was able to find out was recorded in the case. In order to obtain this piece of information, all members of CP6 sent out were destroyed. 1 person in CP0 died again, and 2 people were seriously injured and fled. The dead CP0 was a female agent who lurked into the palace and pretended to be a maid. After successfully exploring some information, it wasn't long after the information was spread. The entire stronghold was directly lifted up, and all the agents were killed. Only the 2 remaining CP0 members were lucky enough to escape from the Ogunjana Kingdom. Damn it! Are you asking Naval Headquarters to launch a war against 2 Emperor's regiments at the same time? Looking at the information given in the intelligence report, Sengoku felt bad all over. He was so tired that he even wanted to throw the information in his hand directly at the face of CP0 in front of him and tell him to take the secret information and go back to the Holy Land. Let those old immortals deal with the Ogunjana Kingdom. Directly dispatching 5 Marine Admirals, dozens of Marine Vice Admirals, and 100,000 elite officers and soldiers at once? Can New World still fight? Can Naval Headquarters and Impel Down still hold on? Damn it!